Welcome to the Crate and Crow. Oh, what?
It's just
Welcome to the Crate and Crowbar. This is episode 141, and it is the 17th of May. I'm Philippa Waugh, and today I am joined by Tom Francis.
Hello.
And Chris Thurston.
hello.
What is the news? What? I've forgotten how we do this.
No, that's right.
So the news, I suppose, is not really news in any sense of that word, because a lot of the information that sort of came out today on the internet came out 2 weeks previously because of an exclusivity, an exclusivitiousness relationship with a different outlet. But 6 weeks ago, I went to France to Arcane Studios, creator of Dishonored, to see Dishonored 2, their new computer game. And as of today, the 17th of May, I can actually talk about it. So I've been sitting on it for... So the news is I'm no longer bound to secrecy. Yeah.
Nice.
Legally bound to secrecy.
So how much more Dishonored can one get?
Well, it's more that they've been dishonored again.
Oh.
Because, yeah...
Re-Dishonored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Over the course of Dishonored, Corvo is steadily honoured.
He got undishonored.
Yeah, he did. By the end of it, it depends on which ending you get. If you get the ending where everything's shit and a little girl dies, then
No honour for you.
he remains dishonoured.
Right.
But based on the canon ending, because it's not like you import a save into the sequel, there is a canon outcome of the first game.
Yeah, that you're competent.
Yeah, you were competent, you didn't kill that many
This
people.
contradicts my game.
And mine.
Yeah, Corvo was competent, he didn't kill too many people, he spared a lot of his targets, that kind of thing.
Not covered in rats all
Then
the
yes,
fucking
by the end of
time.
that game, he would have been pretty much back to honour.
Or at least
suppose.
neutral, I guess.
Well, let's go with honour.
Was he honoured beforehand? Was
Yes.
he like super...
He was the Empress's bodyguard.
Okay.
That's pretty honoured.
Presumably he did something in that role. Like it wasn't his first day or anything. I
But
hope it
aren't
wasn't,
they
because that
supposed
was a bad
to
start.
just like be functional? Like, you know, he basically, like the whole thing is that
I
he
think
just
they're
fails
sometimes
in
called
his
like an
job,
honour
really.
guard. Aren't
Well, he's also the Empress's consort, so there's that.
Yeah.
That's a position of honour, I imagine. That's what they get up to, I suppose.
they? You should write an expert.
he's been
How
doing-
much honour did Corvo really have?
But he's been doing that for at least 10 years, so that's...
He surrendered his honour.
I'll say. Anyway.
Maybe that was his first day on the job.
Yeah. Well, it can't be, because I now have a really good understanding of the dates of different events
Oh,
on
right.
Dishonored's timeline.
Oh, okay. So
'Cause of-
tell us about Dishonored 2
Okay.
and the timeline.
Would you prefer
or...
to know
I
about
don't know.
the prequel timeline for Dishonored? Probably not, is the answer to that.
Well, is it spoilers?
No.
Wait, what?
No, it's just what time... it's sorry, I don't know why we started with the most boring version of this event. Did you know that Corvo came to Dunwall at the age of 18 as a lone soldier from the Duke of Sarkonos, the southern continent?
I did, because I read your preview.
Yeah. I didn't even write this in that preview.
I knew about the Snookanu.
Sarkonos.
Snookanoo.
Yeah,
Snookanu.
wherever he came from.
We must sail to Snookanoo.
Snookaloopi.
I knew that there was an S and a K in it because I remembered the shape of the word on the page. I didn't know it was 18.
Oh, Soccer Bond, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go there and solve some puzzles.
And he gets there and blah, 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 and falls in love with the Empress 6 years later when she's 18, because she's 12 when he arrives. And then shortly after his baby happens, baby grows up, baby becomes a 10-year-old, Empress gets murdered, events of Dishonored 1. Then, 15 years later, Dishonored 2.
It feels like everything happened as early as it possibly could.
Yeah, indeed.
As soon as he could have an affair with her, he did. And
Yeah.
as soon as that kid could be born, knew what she was.
Yeah, I think maybe kid was born a few years later. This
So
is all
he's-
irrelevant.
43.
At least, yes.
Okay.
He's at least 43.
Okay.
I suspect he's older. I don't know. Anyway,
He's got a beard.
he does have a beard.
There's
He has a beard in the
concept
first
art
game as well, to be fair. It's grey now.
Can you see it in the first
Yes,
game?
in the good ending, you see his face.
Ah, right.
I thought you meant like
I
just
wouldn't
as a
know.
little particle effect on the screen. Like you're just
Yeah.
looking through a beard.
beard awareness.
the whole time.
If you look down enough, you can just your vision is blocked
You
slightly.
see your whiskers.
You can't see your body, just your beard. So yes, Dishonored 2 is set 15 years after the original game. Emily is now 25, and is our Empress of Dunwall. And in what's kind of a nice way of interpreting kind of the events after that game, has basically had now that she I think the first game plays coy with the fact that whether or not she knows who her father is. It sort of suggests that she does, but it's never really explicit about it. Whereas this time it's explicit. Corvo is her father. Like it's sort of hinted at in the first game, but never confirmed. And then
like I didn't actually think that he was. I thought he was just like a father figure, if you see what I mean.
It sort of works both ways, but there's explicitly there's a bit in the first game where if you return and speak to her in the tower, when she's been rescued and she's in the little like room she has in the rebel base, basically, she draws pictures, and if you have been a complete dick on missions, she draws really like horrible nightmare visions, like a child's horrible nightmare visions. And if you are playing in a like kind of low violence run, her pictures are much happier, and one of the happy ones is like a version of Corvo and the Empress like together with Emily, and it's like my family, and it says daddy on it. It's quite sweet. But that's like, one of the ways they get that across.
Mine would have just been full of rats.
Yeah. I love rats.
It's just a rat labeled daddy.
Daddy, make rats again. Hooray! So anyway, so it's 15 years later. Emily has spent 15 years being taught by her father that you really can be assassinated at any time and trained so that doesn't happen. So she's got her own sort of, assassin skills and stuff. And then
he's fired as the Empress's bodyguard because she no longer needs him. He's out of work.
Thus Dishonored 2. No. No, they are both subsequently Dishonored again.
Disemployed.
Unemployed. When, something bad happens. They wouldn't tell me exactly what. Start of the game is in Dunwall, but then something bad happens. And the game reaches a really cool scene, reportedly, where time freezes with Emily and Corvo back to back, like surrounded by enemies, and then you pick which one of them you're going to be. And then you stay as that character for the rest of the game.
And they aren't thinking that their abilities are completely exclusive, like there's no overlap?
There's no overlap, yeah.
That's amazing.
So I was talking to them about that, actually. Yeah, so you pick which one you're going to play for the rest of the game, you do the same missions and the same... assassinate the same targets and interact with the same plot, but they are voiced now, so they do have their own take on stuff. And I couldn't get Harvey from Arcane to kind of commit one way or another on what happens to the one you don't pick.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
But I think I suspect that it's a sort of a rescue mission one way or the other, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, they wouldn't go into too many details about that. But they have completely different power sets, and it's not like one of them is like the stealth one and one of them is the violent one. It's just two different ways of doing all of the Dishonored stuff. And that's the kind of most exciting thing about it. Because I didn't play it, so I don't want to go into too much detail of like, every single little thing about it. But the cool, like, I was talking to him about, like, because the first game was defined so much by Blink and by, like, how that changes how stealth feels when you can teleport and the amount of options that gives you for repositioning. And so I was talking to Dinga Bakaba, who's the lead designer, about Blink and how they fiddled with it in the DLC and they did lots of other things with it. And then he was saying, like, well, yeah, if we couldn't have come up with something that was as good, then we would have just given Emily Blink as well.
Right.
So Corvo still has Blink, and like every other power in the game now, it has like a branching upgrade tree rather than like one upgrade. It's got different directions. So, Blink, for example, can be upgraded so that it time freezes when you go to Blink, which is how it works for Dowd in the first game. It can also be upgraded so that you can do like a Blink strike. So you like come directly out of Blink into like a takedown.
Yeah.
You can also you can also change it so you can blink through windows, as in through closed windows, which changes where you can explore.
Is that like just glass or just thin things? Or...
I don't know. I imagine...
Or literally it has to be conceptually a window.
I don't know. I suspect it'll be one of those things where, like in a lot of sort of open exploration games, there's some sort of environmental indicator, like this is a...
Painted white.
Yeah, this is a blinking window and this is a not blinking window. But it's a cool kind of way of gating your progress based on what decisions you make.
I imagine they'd have like...
Maybe you have to be able to see through it. Like, because then you know that you're not going to blink and then end
You can
up
blink where
being...
you see,
if you can see it,
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that.
It's just funny that you could like keep assassins out by closing your shutters.
Emily, in its place, you saw this in the E3 trailer last year when they announced the game, but Emily has a power called Far Reach, where she essentially like throws out her hand and her arm kind of extends like a kind of grapple tentacle.
It's kind of like in The Incredibles, isn't it? With the
A little
stretchy
bit,
Or
yeah.
a Fantastic Four fella, Stretchy Man. Captain Stretchy, I think he's called.
Mr. Fabulous,
Boy.
yeah.
What is he actually called?
And
Stretch Armstrong.
yeah, exactly, like Stretch Armstrong. They're actually one thing
Like
they
a thing
established
that
is
stretches.
like that is actually more like a visualization of what's happening. Like they've done a lot of stuff to explain like people can't see that happening. Like there's not like a giant purple tentacle stretching across.
But they can see her, right?
Yes. So it goes a lot further than Blink.
Yeah.
And it moves you slower. It's not slow. It is quick, but it's not like Blink is
literally teleporting.
Blink is actually a really fast dash, technically, but it's so quick that it's like invisible to the naked eye. Whereas if you were to grapple past somebody, they would have a chance to see you. So you have to be a little bit more circumspect with how you use it. But the cool thing about it is it is basically a physical grapple. It's not a grappling hook. Like you can't swing from it or, dangle or whatever. But it conserves momentum, which Blink doesn't. So if you're running and you grab something and pull, then you will sort of translate your existing momentum into that sort of thrust. And then you could sort of let go as you're flinging to kind of keep going in a parabola through the air and then combo that into an aerial takedown or a slide or something like that. But it also is a physical grapple, so you can grab pickups from across the room with it if you want, like, grab things and stuff. And then it can be upgraded to allow you to grab enemies and pull them towards you.
I bet she overuses it at home. Yeah. Like, my coffee's over there. Oh, fuck it. Just far reach.
And just blinks through the door into the kitchen or something, not
Corvo
into...
blinks into the window
Corvo's
to stop
just
her.
blinking around.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And then...
Presumably Corvo can... This is an aside.
Go for it now.
Presumably Corvo can carry things while blinking. Because all your equipment comes with you.
Yeah.
So if you did have a full cup of coffee, you could also teleport to bring it to somebody.
Is the
You'd make an excellent waiter.
Yeah,
Just wasted
because
an
without the
assassination.
momentum stuff, you wouldn't spill it either. So that's actually probably the best
Yeah,
way
don't
of
get the
getting
upgrade
up
for the momentum.
stairs.
Yeah, exactly. Using Emily's power to transport something spillable is terrible. But Corvo, perfect.
Yeah.
But you totally can, because in the opening of the first game, one of those assassins grabs Emily and blinks.
Yeah.
So if you can blink while holding a person, then
Yeah.
you can definitely blink while holding a cup of coffee. But that's an aside. But yeah, it can also far reach can be upgraded to allow you to grab people and pull them into takedowns and stuff.
Does that mean that that's the only thing you can then do with that ability, or do you still have the earlier options?
No, you still
available to
continue.
you?
It just expands what it can do. It doesn't remove the previous use of it.
So I'm guessing there's just maybe like an extra button flick or something.
It just depends what it hits. I think if you just hit someone with it before being able to do that, you can't move them. Whereas now you've got more strength in it, so you can pull them towards you.
Okay. I guess like if you were trying to use someone to like pull you along rather
I don't
than...
think you can grapple to people. You grapple to geometry. A bit like Blink. The other thing is that you can, if you grab like environmental objects, they demonstrated this with the whale oil canister. The conservation of momentum works the other way. So what they demonstrated was throwing out the grapple, basically, grabbing an explosive canister, whipping it towards Emily, who obviously doesn't want to pick it up, but then stepping out of the way and letting go of the grapple, so it sort of flies backwards behind her and hits the guy chasing her, which is another kind of cool... Like, Dishonored's all about creative combos of powers, and that's... So all they need to do really when they design new stuff is obviously design, levels that suit them. We can go into about that a bit, but also just add interesting possibilities, and then if players want to break the game with them, that's apparently cool. Like, just, if this becomes really silly, that's fine. Like,
Tell us about Domino.
Domino's fucking
That's
rad.
all I want to hear about.
Yeah, so Emily's, I was going to say, Emily's other powers. So, one of which is Domino. Kind of like, variants on that theme. Corvo, is worth stating, has all of his old powers. But with the new upgrade thing, they each have different purposes. And I think one thing they've done, I couldn't get them to exactly clarify how they've done this, but they've made it so there are non-lethal versions of all the stuff that was previously lethal.
Non-lethal rats.
I was trying to figure out
Tasers.
what exactly the non-lethal rat swarm is. It's like, they're smothering me and I'm sleepy.
It'd be like Metal Gear Solid with the stun knife in the dog's mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they're just overwhelming. Like maybe just the sheer weight of rats is like...
Gosh, that is a
it's
lot
just a
of
big,
rats.
warm, comforting blanket of small bodies.
They could just crawl down your throat and, suffocate you. I suppose that kills you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, maybe there's a threshold where they
They're
black out.
gumming me into a stupor.
Or you can just imagine as you're trying to chase someone down and there's loads of rats hanging onto your clothes. You're not going to be
I'm
the
weighed
fastest.
Yeah, they're just slower.
Just inconvenient.
I don't. It might be rats inconvenience people around the kill. I actually don't know if there's a non-lethal rat variant, but I know that's something they wanted to take into consideration, that you should have more non-lethal ways to use powers. So Emily, right? So Domino, which we'll start with because it is the coolest one. Domino allows Emily to link multiple characters, not just enemies, any character in the game, with this kind of metaphysical tether that only you see. And while they are linked, and it starts off with like just 2 people, and then you can expand it to multiple groups of people and stuff like that. While they are linked, anything that happens to one of them happens to all of them. And that's obviously, if you kill one of them, they all die. But it's not just that they die in the same way. So if you cut a throat, they all have their throats cut. It's like a voodoo doll kind of thing. If you
could do positive things though, right?
like, well, it's Dishonored, so you could choke them out.
I thought like, no, this is another tangent.
Throw them a cake.
If you throw a birthday party for one of them, it's all of their birthdays.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the birthday party.
I know you were.
But also, like, you know, if you had an orgasm and you'd linked yourself to someone else, like, they'd be like,
Guaranteed simultaneous orgasms if they actually have sex with each other.
That's true, yeah.
Although also they'd be fucking themselves. Like, presumably they'd experience all of the sensations
Or
that person does.
if you link loads of them, then one of them goes off for a wank.
Yeah, that's more what I meant.
I was like, they could have done that on their own, though. We all have that power.
No, I mean, yes, but no, we don't, Tom. We don't all have the power to, like, cause 5 other people that we're metaphysically linked to.
No, but the other people you're doing it for could also do that by themselves. If they
That is
what if
true,
you'd
but they
had,
wouldn't have
like,
chosen
a long
to.
Day, you know, if you were really knackered. Like, you know, someone else could do all the hard
Masturbation
work.
without the effort. Domino, buy now.
Yeah, so that's possible. But it's also a sort of physical thing. So if you push one person, they all get pushed.
In Dishonored, would you say it's more killing or more birthday parties with Domino?
I'd say it was more killing and more revenge. But yeah, because the tagline for the first game was famously "Birthday parties solve everything."
Are there lots of groups of people then, I'm guessing?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
people just like cluster up. And
It's similar to the first game. It's like,
Can you...
go on, Tom.
You know how every assassination target has like a way to kill them and then like a way to also just
Suitably shame them.
their fates and send them off on a boat somewhere so they never come back. Can you domino link the assassination target to like 5 other guards, then send them on a boat somewhere?
I don't know.
To live happily for after.
I suspect they fucking broke the game when they did this, and they've had to come up with ways to not do it. But yeah, the example I saw was like setting a stun mine, then linking everyone in the room together, apart from the target, I think, so all of his guards, and then like disabling the projector that they were all watching. And the stun mine was next to the projector. And then they like, you know, it's broken again. Like, and then one of them goes to fix it. And then when he stands on the stun mine, they all get
That's really
electrocuted.
smart.
Like you see it sort of travel through the line between them and like propagate out.
But it's effects on the person rather than what they do. Because I was thinking in terms of getting them all to leave a room. Like,
No,
just
it's
by
like,
one of them
it's more,
leaving a room,
it's kind
maybe?
of, the metaphysics of it are weird. Because it's like, it's things that happen to them.
Okay.
So like, another example that, was given, I think I've seen this in a few previews, so it's probably given a lot, was like a guard standing on the edge of a cliff and then just a civilian wandering the street, linking them and then shoving the civilian. And the civilian's only momentarily inconvenienced because he's been shoved, whereas the guard goes straight off the cliff.
Yeah, wow.
When the guard dies, does it then kill the civilian?
Don't know, actually. So it's like, are they still linked when the guard dies is the kind of thing. I wonder if it's like just like one thing that transfers through the link or something.
It could, yeah.
I think this is a weird thing because, like, I'm now thinking of all of those different puzzle games that have the thing where when you move one thing, another thing moves sort of in relation to that, and like I can't quite get away from that in my brain to it just
for me,
being about the killing effects.
My brain just files this under crosslink, but for people.
Yeah, yeah. If you if one of the people was a door and you opened that,
Just link a man to a light switch. Press the light switch.
switch the man off,
And he'll be turned
or
on.
Turn the man off. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. It sounds like that sounds like one that has the most sort of fun possibilities.
Yeah.
Another example they gave was involving one of Emily's other powers, and this is one I didn't see and don't really know how you use it properly. But it's called Doppelganger, and it allows her to create a clone of herself that acts as either a distraction and then can be upgraded to fight and do stuff. And I don't know how you control it, but there's another Emily, basically.
Yeah.
But the Doppelganger is an eligible domino target. So if you so someone gave the example of like they're running away and they're really low on health, and they create the Doppelganger, link the Doppelganger to their toughest pursuers, and then when the Doppelganger gets caught and killed, those people
Oh, they
all
kill
die.
themselves.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which is kind of like a rad, so this is the point of the game, right? Is like crazy stuff like that.
Can you domino someone to yourself?
I don't think
your
so.
real
No,
self?
I don't think you can because, yeah.
I suppose you'd need to be able to target them.
Can you domino someone to a rat and then
I
stamp on
don't
the
know
rat?
actually. I don't know about animals because they didn't. There's some new stuff with animals, but I didn't. But it mostly affects Corvo because of possession.
And if you can't, then if Corvo were in your world and he possessed a rat, could you do it to him? Because technically that rat is a person.
I don't know, Tom. I spent a day looking at the game.
Maybe this is like why they had to hedge their bets. Maybe they're still figuring this shit out. It's kind of like, when is a rat not a rat, you know?
Other stuff, one of them's called Mesmerize, and it like creates this like, you know, the void in the first game, like the other world kind of thing.
With the lots of like leaping around.
Yeah, and the floating stuff
and
and the outsider and stuff. It looks a bit different in the new
Zen
one.
of Dishonored.
Yeah, it looks a lot more. It's a lot more kind of mobile and kind of dynamic now. But Emily kind of like creates a tear in reality where you can see the void, and this just enraptures everyone around it. So it's like a kind of distraction ward, basically.
Isn't that what Elizabeth can do in BioShock Infinite? She opens a tear and can pull things in from...
No, she doesn't pull things through it. It's a distraction. They get kind of like... They don't remember that they've seen it, because the idea is it's like this Lovecraftian horror thing where they get kind of... Their minds get completely kind of overcome by it, and they're sort of staring at it in this kind of religious terror and awe until it goes away, and then they forget what they were looking at.
That happens to me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see a cool poster.
And the final one is called Shadow Walk, which is, you saw this in the trailer as well, which is the one with where she at the end she like basically transforms into a tentacle smoke monster. Because Emily can't possess small animals to get through little vents and stuff. Like Dishonored is one of the rare games that has realistic sized vents because Corvo can possess rats and fish and stuff. Emily turns into smoke to get through there, and so it's a very efficient stealth method. But it also has its own unique takedowns, and if you kill someone, you break the effect because she becomes physical again. But there are these very kind of elaborate... It actually reminded me a lot of The Darkness, like the game where you're a man but also some tentacles, of those kind of like dismemberments where you like tear people apart. Like she sort of rematerializes while just sort of rending someone in half.
Wow.
Which is...
No non-lethal version of that, I guess.
And then like, sleep.
Could she like use her smoke form to sort of infiltrate someone's body? Like if they breathe her in and then she turns into a human being inside their lungs.
Probably
and, like,
not.
Bursts out.
Unless they... Well, unless they...
That would be so gross.
It would be. Unless they specifically put that in the game, I doubt it.
Oh.
No,
what if you turn into like the smoke thing and you go through the vent, but then they turn the fan on and it just burns you out?
There's a character, one of the sort of assassination targets, smokes like a pipe that's built into like a ceramic hand that he has, like he's lost his hand or something. It's a really beautiful design.
It's like permanently built into his...
Well, it's like he lost a thumb, I think, so like the top half of his hand has been replaced with like a ceramic finger that he's built a pipe into for like efficiency's sake, so he like smokes his thumb. So maybe if you climbed inside his thumb and then he smoked you.
And then you dominoed him to yourself.
Oh my
So
god,
he smokes himself.
But he's basically like Edward Vaping Hands or something.
Yeah, actually. So that brings me on to the next topic, which is, you know how in that original trailer there was like that mansion that kind of reformed itself with the sliding panel walls and the kind of massive clockwork mechanism?
I don't remember this at all.
That is one mission in the game, which is called the Clockwork Mansion, and is owned by Edward's Vaping Hands. Because I've forgotten his actual name. They didn't show us much of that mission, but that's a proper feature. And
they had in the trailer they showed like mechanical enemies in that.
Yeah.
Is that like a thing for that level or a thing?
That's the thing generally. They've kind of replaced tall boys. Like there are these automata now, and they're like ceramic and weird looking.
Ceramic boys.
They're now made of wood.
Oh.
They're like these panels that you can blow off, and they can lose limbs individually and stuff like that.
Sounds a little bit like the Girl in the Fireplace episode of Doctor Who, almost. With the clockwork Versailles kind of.
Yes, that was That's a really weird specific reference, but yeah, no.
Well, usefully specific?
I guess. It depends if you've seen that particular episode of Doctor Who.
I think a lot of people have. Doctor Who is a popular television show.
Excellent. So yeah, they are another enemy that is good at chasing you high up, which is something they've changed. So guards can climb now. Like, not a lot, but some. So it's not just like, you're up there, we're fucked.
They used to just throw shit at you, didn't they?
Yeah, because there's loads I could say. Like, there's, but the one thing I wanted to say about the missions was, you know how that thing in Dishonored was like, the best missions were ones that had like a really specific thing, like Lady Boyle's party, or the Golden Cat, or like, and
Yeah,
they
let's
reached
not
this kind
talk about the Golden Cat.
yeah, these great like set pieces to pull apart. They've said that they are going to try and do that for every single mission in the sequel, that it'll be about as long as the first game, but rather than having, I suspect there won't be as many like linear missions like in the second half of the first game.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. So the 2 missions I saw was a bit of the Clockwork Mansion, which looks awesome. Like you pull these levers and the buildings reconfigure themselves, but the space between where those mechanisms are is also game space, so you can climb up inside the walls and like
cool.
patrol around. And the other was a mission called the Dust District, which has, your goal is actually to get some information. There are 2 people that can give you that information, and they're at war with each other. One is like the church overseer, and the other's like a gang leader, and they have their own areas of the map. And then there's it's a big urban area, and then there's like a neutral area in the center with like marketplace and civilians and stuff. And when you start, they're hostile to you in either side. But if you go into one faction's territory, kill or incapacitate their leader, and take their body to the other faction, they'll let you in. And they'll give you the information you want, but it's up to you which side you pick. And it suggests that there's a way of doing neither of that, and
I'd assume
third options and stuff like that. So I love the idea of them doubling down on making every single mission have like a thing. And the other thing in the Dust District mission is it has procedural dust storms that pass through and completely obscure vision for like a period of time. And yeah, and it looks fucking amazing as well. Like it really is, like it's the same art team, so it has that same sensibility, but a new engine, and it looks fucking tip top. A lot of pictures on PCGamer.com, whence I wrote a big article. Many words, many of the same words you've just heard, but in a different order.
It's funny how, like, assassination games, Hitman struggled for years with, like, it just couldn't find its identity, and it would just have a bunch of really great assassination missions, and then a bunch of missions where you just had to walk through Japan in winter for like 15 minutes while snipers on towers shot at you. And you're just like, what the fuck is this doing in there? And there's like one way you just run through a jungle and steal a golden idol from a tribe in Hitman 1. And it was terrible. And like
Hitman Indiana Jones.
You had like an M16 and just mowing down loads of soldiers in a jungle, and there was no stealth option, and it was just terrible. It took them like 4 games, really. Contracts was, well, Hitman 2 was good, but Blood Money was the first one where there's almost no bullshit in it. There's like 1 or 2 missions that have a little bit, and again, the worst ones are the ones where you don't just have a target to kill. It's like you've got to get to this friendly agent and resurrect him and stuff. And that, like, much, much less so, but Dishonored, the bits that weren't quite as memorable and brilliant were the latter half, where, like, the sort of flooded city, where you're just trying to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. You just had to progress, and that's never as satisfying as just, you know, having a mission to do that's, you know, what you do as your job.
Yeah. Killing people or shaming them. Making them wear the cone of shame in a way that they can no longer hinder your political plans.
You are dishonouring them.
Yes, indeed. That's making them less honoured than you.
The dishonoured becomes the dishonoree.
Dishonorer. I think the dishonoree would still be the dishonoured, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyway.
The dishonoree becomes the dishonorer. Neither of those are words.
Anyway.
Yes. So yes, it looks really good. I had a fine old time. I think the cool thing about it, and I've written this in a few different ways now, but not to paraphrase myself too much, is that there was definitely a time where you wouldn't necessarily expect a game like that to get a proper sequel. Like, we're going to spend 4 years, give or take, and a bit of money just making this again, but better. Like, it's not. I love
that they've just like gone for the difficult thing, which is let's just make 2 games basically.
Yeah,
just because making 2 different ability sets that totally don't overlap and are both really good in their own way, and one of them can't be so good that it makes the other one seem shit. That's really difficult.
Yeah, and it does meaningfully affect like how they progress through areas as well. Like there are definitely ways in which it's like, oh, that's this game's version of the previous game's thing, but this game's version of rats is giant flies. And the giant flies are like the opposite of rats. As any naturalist will tell you.
I'd say the opposite of rats is wasps, but then the opposite of wasps is bees, so I'm not really sure like how.
And that's the triangle of life.
I don't think any of those things are opposite to any of those things.
Well, the opposite of a cat is a dog, Tom. Obviously.
What's the opposite of a dog?
It's the cat,
Okay,
obviously.
fine. So that one is at least binary.
Yeah.
I think opposites only really work for things that are arranged in a circle. And then
Yeah.
you can say that the thing on
I
this
don't
side
know,
is
hang
the
on,
opposite
and
of the
then
thing on
the
the other side.
opposite of a bee is an ant. But then,
Why?
like, because Ant and Bee was a series of children's books that I love, and so Ant and Bee are friends, but they're also fundamentally opposite characters.
Like Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
Like Ant and Dec?
Yeah. They are opposites of each other,
Oh,
aren't
just
they?
and to the opposite of Deck.
Yeah.
They are quite dissimilar.
Black and white, Ant and Deck, up and down. North and south, man not a boy.
It's like when you like the phrase for everything going upside down is like, black becomes white, up becomes down, ant becomes deck.
You see? It's just as nonsense. It flips the whole world order.
Simon is the opposite of Garfunkel.
A
Yeah.
rat becomes a wasp for some reason.
So in Dishonored 2, rats do kind of become wasps.
Yeah. Or maybe rats and mice are opposites.
Are they?
They're so similar. All the things you say are opposites are so similar.
I think you've stumbled across the one topic you could talk about at length, Pip, that is most likely to totally confound Tom.
Well, what's the opposite of a rat for you?
Like a blimp. It's
So
not
what,
an
they
animal,
can-
it's not small, it's not vermin.
But how would you, like, if... Oh, that doesn't make any sense to me. You're weird.
What's the opposite of a frog, Pip?
A toad.
These are just very similar things. Are you sure you don't just think the word opposite means similar?
No, because they're not like each other. Like, you'd maybe think...
They're quite like each other.
Well, no,
Frogs and
because
toads are
black
pretty
and white
similar.
are pretty similar. They're both
Are they?
colours. Yeah, they're both colours.
Right, they're the same type of thing, that's true.
Yeah.
But they're
Like, they have to be a similar thing. Like,
Extreme
up and
ends of the
down is a
spectrum.
directions.
A toad is an
they?
extreme frog. Any kid of the 90s could tell you that.
Frogs
What-
and newts, then, maybe. A newt might be the opposite of a frog.
What's the opposite of a salamander?
A skink.
It's how fast you are with this thing. What's the opposite of a horse?
I was going to say a dog. I might just be doing free association at this point.
You might.
We should probably get back to the games
So
thing.
the
that we-
opposite
we
of a
do.
rat is a big fly called a blood fly. And the reason I say that is not wonky understanding of natural biology. It's because they have an opposite role in the gameplay.
They regurgitate corpses.
Pretty much. So in Dishonored 1, if rats in sufficient numbers find a corpse, they will completely remove the corpse, which can actually play to your favour if you
Do
want.
they?
Yes.
Huh.
If you want to hide a body, that's a good way of doing it. If, however, you want to protect an unconscious person, it's a terrible way of doing it.
Oh.
Whereas bloodflies lay their eggs in corpses and they mature very quickly to the point where if you leave loads of corpses around a map, if you go back through that area, you'll find more flies and they'll be in greater numbers and they'll make more hives and it'll get worse and worse and worse.
Do they attack you?
Yes.
Do they become maggots first? Like, do you, like, genuinely,
I think
do you
there are
find, like,
you see like
maggoty
hives and
corpses?
like maggots and stuff.
Can Corvo possess the maggot stage and then whilst in maggot form evolve into a bloodfly?
I don't know. He can possess bloodflies.
If I'd gone on this
my
trip, we wouldn't have got past the first
Can you
5 minutes of the demo.
imagine if Emily could, like, link a whole bunch of maggots and then they did a little formation dance?
If you link a maggot to a human, does a human evolve into whatever it is humans are, into an angel?
Maybe. There is a thing called an axolotl, which looks like a
they're
newt.
great.
But it's I think evolutionary. It's the larval stage of something else, and the something else no longer exists.
Oh, really?
And there's just this thing that's like
Has it just
the middle
forgotten how to
phase
make
of
a
a life.
cocoon, then?
Yeah, I can't remember why this happened, but briefly I entertained the notion that humans are also just the larval stage of something else.
There
and
is
we've forgotten what the thing is that we've done.
I believe, a Primo Levi short story that is exactly that.
Oh, really?
The axolotl thing. This is like a naturalist in Germany, I think, who discovers that humans are actually axolotls of angels.
Ha!
And that's where the angel myth comes
Well, there
from.
you are.
That we are supposed to sort of build a chrysalis and then pop out with wings and then bugger off. Anyway, none of this is
That's what
relevant.
happened to Corvo.
Indeed, yeah.
And if you dominate into other people, they'd all become angels.
That's how we all get raptured. You have to tie yourself to someone else who gets raptured. That's how you confound God.
Flies float up in the sky with them like
Yeah,
a
like
blimp, which
you're
is the
right.
opposite of a rat. Oh god, how off topic could we possibly get? So yeah, the reason I was going to say it is because the flies, they're a bit like rats in Dishonored. Like if there is only one or two of them, they're not a threat. But if there's a bunch of them, then they will attack you. For Emily, they're kind of like a progress blocker where you've got to get in there and start slashing at them with your sword to get rid of them. Whereas Corvo can possess them, so those whole areas become like very cool freeform. Like you just possess a fly and fly around. You can also like upgrade it so you can jump from one possessed thing directly into another and stuff like that.
So like, but for Emily then, what's the function? Is it more as like a difficulty curve or like a thing which teaches you that you have to hide corpses or like make them unavailable to the flies or like that you don't kill? Is it supposed to be the punishment for you killing stuff?
It's like anything in Dishonored, it's more that it is a system of interactions in the world that you can use to your favour or detriment.
Okay.
So, like, it doesn't have, like, a specific purpose. It's like, if you leave a load of corpses around and you subsequently make an area harder to get back through, then that's a decision you made that had a direct consequence in the world, and it's just a way of seeing your agency reflected.
Yeah.
But if you were me and trying to do a video series where you set up a series of absurd traps, maybe creating loads of corpses, so you create loads of bloodflies, and then luring an enemy into them so they get eaten by the bloodflies is a way you could creatively dispose of a target. Like it's the game's always ultimately a sandbox, so it's not like anything has an intended thing. It's just
I just wondered if that was part of the.
But yeah, so it's just I didn't play it, but I did watch it for a decent amount of time and came away really, really excited. And that's as somebody who was very much looking forward to this game. It looks radical.
Awesome.
Have you been playing games, either of you?
Well, we have been playing a stealth thing that's possibly relevant to this.
Have you?
Hitman. I'm like, Doom's not a stealth thing.
Have you both dealt with the elusive man?
Well, I have dealt with Martin Sheen.
Yes.
What
is he the elusive target in this?
Yeah, yes. And they... I guess this was their plan all along, but for a while it looked weird that, like, Paris is the first episode of Hitman, that's been out for a while, and there's a second episode now, and even after the second episode came out, there was no elusive target for Paris. It was just this blank slot. It kept telling you that, coming soon, and I thought it was, like, something they'd fucked up, like it was supposed to launch with the thing, and they haven't got it ready. But now that it's happened, it's a target that's only in the map for a weekend, basically, and... when you play the mission, you can't see where he is on your detective vision. He's not highlighted on your map. You do know what he looks like. And you're given an idea of roughly where he might be. But there's also, you can't save or load. And after you've killed him, you can't restart the mission. And basically, if you fuck it up, you fucked it up forever and you can never redo it. But it's actually got like, voice work and stuff, and there's a lot more effort put into it than I realized. I thought that the reason I thought it was weird that it hadn't launched because I thought it was just like a contract, which is a thing any player can make, where you just highlight an enemy and say that's the target for this mission. You got to kill it with this weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's like a sort of an intro. Diana talks you through why you're killing this person. He has a bunch of dialogue as he walks around the place.
So it's like more meaningful, like mini DLC, I guess.
Yeah, DLC would be a grandiose term for it.
That's why I said mini.
Yeah.
It's like an event, basically.
Yeah.
It feels like a live event in the MMO or something.
Yeah.
There's a bit of effort put in.
Cool.
And I liked it. In general, I was hesitant because in contracts mode and when you're doing escalation missions, which is another bunch of like things that they just lay on top of the same mission, you can't save, and it really pisses me off, and I basically just don't play those modes because you can't save. It just drives me crazy. Like, escalation missions in particular, you just have to do the same mission again and again, and you're never allowed to save, so if you ever fuck anything up, you just got to repeat it from the start, and it's just boring repetition. And this, you also can't save, but you can't repeat it. So, sure, you can fuck it up, but you, like, it's kind of the Spelunky thing where, like, the Spelunky Daily Challenge, you can fail it, but that doesn't lead to frustrating repetition because you can't play it again. It's gone forever. And... I love the Daily Challenge, and this has a kind of similar thing where there's a much bigger amount of tension. That's a weird way to say it, but it's like as soon as you start it, it's like it's a map you know well if you've played the game a bunch, if you've like maxed out your mastery level or whatever, and unlocked all the stuff. So you know the hunting ground, but also you feel just very on edge because like normally I just load a save every time anything fucks up, but here I can't. So I've just got to. I found a room where I was pretty sure that guy would be, and he wasn't there. And then I looked around for him and I couldn't find him. And I thought I'm just going to go back to that room and just wait if he's not there because I'm pretty sure he goes there. And when I went back, he was there, and he's with the bodyguard. And I just I was in a disguise where I could just walk right up to him, and like neither of them were at all suspicious of me. So I just kind of watched him and hung around, and he just went between two different rooms. And then he said, "I'm going to go and see the show," and walked out of the door. And like bodyguards are on this weird kind of schedule where they try and stay close to the target, but every now and then things can sync up in a way that they lag behind, and he lagged behind. And he lagged behind enough that I thought, I can definitely take him out without the guy hearing. Like he's just walking out the door. The door might even close behind him before the bodyguard gets there. But I couldn't wait for that to happen. So I did like the subdue thing and dragged him into a closet. And I thought, great, got rid of the bodyguard. But now he's gone to... I thought he was going to see the rest of the show downstairs, which would have been quite easy. But he went upstairs, which is the highest security area in the whole mansion. And I know from experience there just isn't really any room where you can just get someone on their own and, that I could think of. And so I thought, well, I could go up, like... If I could save and load, I'd probably have gone up there and just seen what I could do. But instead, I just waited in his room. And eventually, actually, like I was talking to a friend on Steam while this was happening, and kind of explaining the situation and stuff. And then I thought, well, I've been waiting here a long time. I'm just going to go out and see if I can find him. Because even once you've spotted him, he's not highlighted in your detective vision, but he is wearing an apron. So
the apron was essential for me as well.
Yeah, if you see a silhouette, sometimes you can tell. Sometimes it's a woman in a dress. And I spotted his apron above me and realised, oh fuck, he's gone upstairs. And then like painstakingly made my way. Like I couldn't walk past the guards because I'm only a waiter, so they'd search me, and I wanted to take all my stuff up there. So I like climbed out the window and climbed up a drain pipe and stalked my way all the way up there. By the time I got up there, he wasn't there anymore. And so then I thought, fuck this, I'm just going back to his room. I'm just going to wait there until he arrives. And he did. And then of course he has no bodyguard. As far as I know, he doesn't sort of do anything about that. And I was able to just throw a letter opener in his head. It was great.
My experience is weirdly similar, actually, because down to killing him with the letter opener. Because I did the thing where because I know that at level quite now that there's a way of very quickly and very easily getting an invitation to the upstairs, which allows you to go upstairs in your own clothes. So I did that, hid my gun in a bin so that I could go up unarmed, but I figured I'm not going to take a risk on shooting the guy in this because I need it to be perfect. And that's a cool thing it makes you think, is like, I just need to kill him. I don't really need to worry about what other points I'm going to get. I just need to kill him and get out. And then as I was going upstairs, I saw him going up another flight of stairs, like ahead of me, and I was like, I fucking found him straight away. So I started following him, and he went into the attic, which is quite heavily patrolled, and you can't be in there normally. But I snuck in, started like walking around, but I couldn't quite keep up with him without going to areas where I'd definitely be seen. And then I lost him in the attic, and then I spent probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes sneaking around the attic trying to figure out where he'd gone. Choked a guy out, put him in a box, took his clothes. Now I'm a high-ranking security guard. Then decided to wait in the attic, and then that didn't work. Then tried to find a place I could potentially snipe him from if I got down to the bottom of the stairs, got my sniper rifle, came back up, and waited on the opposite gantry from a window and thought he was going to walk past. And by the time I'd done that, he'd gone through another lap of the attic. Then went back through the attic, climbed onto the outside of the building, found the room with the Dracula costume in, which I didn't know was there.
Right. I knew it was up there somewhere. I've never actually come across it.
What's Dracula's security clearance?
Terrible. Everyone finds him suspicious. And that's why there's like 5 achievements related to doing things as
Really?
the vampire magician, because nobody will let you get away with it.
It's like, no one's expecting him. He's not on any lists.
Let me just check. No vampire magician here.
I wonder if you can do it if you get the...
Mr. Vampire Magician!
Yeah, exactly. Looking like a vampire magician.
Gonna do some magic like a vampire would?
It'd be great if you got the inverse of the Hitman bark, where it'd be like, hey, Mr. Vampire Magician, you don't belong here at all.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Never talk to me or my son again.
Never talk to me and my identical guard type again.
Yeah, exactly. Never talk to me, but with a mustache. Ever again. And then I went to like the middle floor, and I think found the room you're talking about, like his kind of study area. And then I was like, fuck, he is on a loop, isn't he? He's definitely going to come back through here. So I just waited in that cupboard for like 15 minutes. And then eventually he'd come back through, and then he goes over to a whiteboard while his bodyguard's got his facing the other way, so I choked his bodyguard out. Then I stabbed him in the neck with a letter opener, and that was that. So I think its weakness actually is in preventing you from knowing where the character is. It reinforces waiting for the pattern to loop than improvising in a way, because
there's a lot of that.
I feel like.
So does this guy literally just spend his time doing laps of a fashion house
He has
and then
a loop,
leave? Like forever. Like never.
No, he will never leave. Like he'll just keep doing his loop.
No, but he leaves forever.
After 48 hours, yeah.
If you played the mission for the entire weekend.
I'm just thinking, because I have it installed on my PC, but obviously I was away this weekend, so like my little man would have just like been cycling around having a merry old time.
I think you just have to start the mission within the weekend. So if you did start like in the last minute, he would stay in the level. Like he doesn't literally leave at a calendar time. It's more like you have to start the mission in a calendar time, and then he stays forever. While you're playing.
God, can you imagine if he actually did? You'd be so pissed off. Like if you just started the mission a bit earlier that evening, and then he looks at his watch and goes, "Well, that's me. Must be off. Bye."
That's my window of opportunity up.
If anyone was going to kill me, they should have done it by now.
I did find that, so I really hated the waiting the first time I lived in Paris, like taking out the main targets, because that was just the game, and I was just going to have to do that a lot, and if I wanted to retry a different way, it was going to be a huge amount of waiting again. This time, although there was a lot of waiting, and it was especially uneventful waiting, I didn't mind it so much because the stakes were so high, and it was like, I could have done other things. I was waiting because I wanted to play it super safe, because I just knew I couldn't screw this up. And when it's kind of like self-motivated waiting, it's not as boring.
What happens if you do fuck it up? Like if you'd screwed it up, is there like some long lasting damage to your reputation?
Yeah, there's a list somewhere of elusive targets, and I think was Sam saying like on his it reads missed or something.
Yeah, and they're going to do rewards for however many of them you've managed to kill, so you'll get like different costumes and stuff. Sam, incidentally, is a giant cheaty man because he fucked it up and then loaded it on the PC Gamer Press account and did it again.
Oh my god, what a cheat!
I think we've told the story of the time Graham did that with the Splunky Daily Challenge, right?
Yeah, exactly. What is it with PC Gamer editors and absolute unforgivable
it's power,
shame?
It just goes to their head.
Yeah.
They've both been Dishonored.
They think they can get away with editing.
I do really like it. I think that the tension is the best thing about it, and the sense that everything matters, and getting seen by a guard matters, and all the rest of it. But that also encourages conservative playstyle, and I feel like they've got to account for that through the way they structure the mission, rather than just by lowering the stakes. Like changing it so that, just having it so that it wasn't a reliable loop, would I think change it. So that if there were like, I don't know, if it was like there are 5 different rooms that this target likes, and we'll move between them doing different things in them at random. So there's like a set number of different paths they can take ultimately, but those things can kind of like feed into each other in different ways. So that if you see them go through a room, you don't necessarily know that they're going to go back through there soon or again or anything else. That I think would help a lot, because it would encourage you to take the opportunity while you see it, rather than like going, okay, well, I've slightly missed my window to kill him while he's looking at the whiteboard this time. But if I wait 10 minutes, he'll be looking at the same whiteboard again.
So this might be a weird question, but has Hitman ever done any missions in like halls of mirrors? So you have to be really careful with where people are looking?
No. I think calculating, like doing the ray casts for line of sight in a hall of mirrors would be a technical nightmare. Particularly because if any 2 mirrors are like facing each other directly, it could create like an infinite...
Also, just one guy yelling, "Wow, there's loads of waiters in here! You all must be a waiter."
1 million waiters, going to do 1 million waiting things.
Yeah.
An interesting question though for our listeners, or maybe you guys if you know, has there ever been a game that actually models line of sight with mirrors? Because there have been games with mirrors in the beginning, model line of sight. Do any of them actually simulate your line of sight bouncing off a mirror and seeing something?
Hitman really pointedly doesn't, actually, because in that upstairs area where the auction is taking place, there's like 2 big bathrooms, and they're actually there's 1 big bathroom, and it is a good place to get rid of guards from a particular room, because you can switch a little radio on, and then the guard from outside will come in.
I love the radio.
And the place you hide is like behind a cupboard on the other side of the room, and then you can go out and check the guy out and put him in the cupboard. But there's a massive, sort of like, I don't know, 8 foot by 5 foot mirror on the other wall. And it's a working mirror as far as the game engine's concerned. So as the guard is investigating the little radio, you can fully see yourself walking towards him, like a bald man approaching from behind. And they never see that at all.
Yeah.
So.
Right, but if it did successfully model the casting on mirrors, and you wore the Dracula costume, then you could sneak up on people behind when they're looking in the mirror.
No, they would immediately see. They're like, I can see that. That means you're not really Dracula. I feel safe, and then they get strangled.
That's the hardest problem in AI. Is should someone calm down when they realise that your vampire costume is not really a vampire costume because they're seeing its reflection, or should they be panicked because they see you're there at all?
And while they're experiencing this quandary, you stab them with the letter opener.
Yeah, this is why you should be doing QA on all of these open-ended stealth games, because you ask the questions no one would even think to ask.
Yeah, we'd end up with some weird games as a result, I think.
I remember if you made a level in Duke Nukem 3D, which is probably one of the first-person games with mirrors in it, maybe the first. If you wanted a mirror in there, then you like a certain texture that you apply to the surface, and then you had to just leave a big empty room behind the mirror, because the way the engine did the mirror was just to create another room behind it and mirror everything that's happening. So, like when you look in a mirror in Duke Nukem, there is actually another Duke Nukem in there, and all the enemies and stuff are all in there.
I don't know what you're talking about, Tom. That's how mirrors work in real life.
Build engine was amazing.
Oh my god.
So yeah, it was good. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Do you know when the next one is? Like, are they going to be on a regular cycle
I wonder
now?
if they're going to be monthly. Like, it'll be like a month after the release of the next episode. There'll be the one for Sapienza.
Yeah, I've been assuming there's just one per episode, so I don't know what the schedule will be, but...
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't sure whether it was a case of multiple elusive targets.
They could do them
per
forever. Like
episode.
maybe once they've made all the episodes, if they still want to make content, I'd be perfectly happy to play another elusive target on an existing mission.
Yeah.
It would keep people, like, keeping the game installed and stuff and coming back to it.
It's not like free content though. I thought the reason I thought it was going to be sort of
Oh, is it
just
not?
sorry, no, I mean for them to
Oh,
make
I see.
because it's got voice acting and stuff. I was thinking it was going to be like a daily challenge where it's just they pick a person and they just say just kill that guy however you like and their job done. In which case they could do them forever without any cost.
Could you assassinate him and then wear his costume?
I didn't notice actually. I didn't notice if you could take his clothes.
Yeah.
Because that would be like he is
You
wearing
often can't
a
take
unique
clothes
getup
of
targets.
targets, yeah.
Huh.
I suppose they're usually sort of high profile enough that they would know that you weren't that guy.
It's funny, there's a Blood Money mission where there's a heaven and hell party going on, and there's like on the roof there's a heaven party, and in the basement there's a hell party.
Sounds like something from Gossip Girl.
It's like, I feel like that was the kind of thing they looked back on most when making this new Blood Money, the new Hitman, because it's a male and female target, which both of the missions have been so far. And they both kind of have their own routines, and you have to kind of learn what you can about each of them, and they have sort of special hotspots that they go to and interact with, and it feels the closest thing to the new Hitman from the Blood Money missions. And in that one, the reason I thought of it is that one of the targets is dressed in a gold suit wearing a gold demon mask, and if you kill him, you can take his costume, and I think you can actually meet with the other target disguised
This is
as
a
him.
Gossip Girl episode.
Holy shit, Gossip Girl is a lot more gory than I realised.
I think if you replace like illicit kissing with murdering, then
Kiss
that's
man.
Gossip Girl. Yeah. They have lots of masked balls, it's weird.
Right.
That waiter shouldn't be kissing that woman.
Kissing like a waiter, I see. That's my concept of a waiter now.
Have you played anything else?
Yeah. I have also been playing Doom, the new one. Doom 4.
I believe
let's
Chris
call
has
it.
also been playing Doom.
I have also been playing Doom.
You're like game twins.
We are game twins today.
Yeah. Tell me about Doom.
I didn't like it at first. After about 2 missions, I was really pissed off with it because it presents itself, just every now and then, it does something that presents itself as the fuck story, let's get to the action game.
Right.
And like in some cases your character literally like punches away the speaker that the story is coming out of, or the story person tells them to do something and they intentionally just like fuck it up and destroy shit. And most of the actions your character performs without like when interacting with something is to punch something. And that's awesome. Like that's what I want. But it's like one of those things where like don't toy with my emotions if you're not going to follow through on it. And for the first 2 missions, it doesn't really, because it does that and then it just locks the door and starts talking to you about the plot, and you can't do anything except listen to the plot. And like in the first mission, there's a couple of bits like that are not too long, and then the second mission is one where they lock the door and a fucking robot on a hologram screen talks to you for like 2 minutes straight, stuff that just I wasn't interested in at all, and the door's locked behind you, your weapons are disabled, you can't even like shoot the walls in an act of empty rebellion, which is what I normally do in these situations. And it just goes on and on and on, and then I alt-tabbed away from it because I was bored of it, and then came back to it, and like I'd sort of watch another 10 or listen to another 10 seconds of it and then alt-tab away again and then come back to it.
The worst is games that pause when you alt-tab out to avoid
their
boring
it does.
cutscenes. Oh, really?
Yeah, it does. That's why I was alt-tabbing just for a break from the talking. And I was just like, what the fuck happened to the game where he was like punching things and not caring about the story? Why do you think I care about the story? And then luckily, after mission 2, it doesn't seem to do that again. It just... There's one more bit that's kind of dumb where you see a plot character behind bulletproof glass, but they also lock you in position and take your weapons away and don't let you look away. So it's like the reason people have bulletproof glass in these games usually is so that you can have plot stuff going on without the risk of the player destroying it or fucking it up. Whilst the advantage of that is you can give the player full control because they can't do anything. Yeah. But this both has the bulletproof glass and also disables you and fixes you to the point. Like, just have cutscenes. If you really want to have story bits, then have cutscenes, because then I could skip them.
I didn't really find it that egregious, like, at all.
It's really...
I know that you and I have very, very different tolerances and stuff, but...
It's just the first 2 missions, and then after that, I almost gave up then. Particularly because when I quit the game and came back to it, the checkpoint is before the minutes-long talking bit that they lock you in for. So I had to go through it a second time. But then, yeah, after mission 2, it just kind of stops it. And then it becomes much more about the combat, and the combat also gets way more interesting once you get new weapons and upgrade them and stuff, and then now I'm really enjoying it.
I don't like long cutscenes on PC. I used to be okay with them on like console because I would have the console in the room that also had a kitchen. And so when I was playing Eternal Sonata and they had such long cutscenes, they were actually PowerPoint presentations about Chopin's life. And during one of them I just made a lasagna. It was like, yeah,
it's just that like even the story bits in Doom are like 30 seconds to a minute, like most of the time. Like it's not a lot even.
What is the story of Doom?
It's actually
I still don't know.
Like, so
is
I don't know, I feel
the
like...
one with the Cocoa Demons?
Yes, the Cocoa Pop Demons.
No,
the Caco Demons. Yeah.
Okay.
The like, so I think I maybe had a different experience because I fucking loved it from like minute one and haven't stopped fucking loving it, and I honestly think it's the best FPS in years. Like, the only thing that's come close is Wolfenstein New Order. Essentially, Bethesda are on a fucking roll with me this month. But yeah, so they've done. So it's sort of a reboot of Doom, in that it's ignoring Doom 3, which was more of a kind of much more story driven, like attempt at making a kind of immersive horror FPS. New Doom has.
Is that the one everyone hates?
Not hates, but it's not great. Like,
yeah, it didn't sort of stick really. Like, people liked it at the time. A lot of people did.
Yeah, but it didn't last as a classic or anything. This one has you sort of like, you wake up on a futuristic surgery bed.
As in like 4id games.
As in like 4id games previous. And then you wake up, you punch some brainless, mutant-possessed zombie Mars workers to death. Then you go to the next room where the Doom Marine suit, like the green armor, is like encased in a kind of hell sarcophagus, which you extract it from. And then you punch things and blow them up with shotguns. And the broader story is that humanity has, for some reason, decided to solve a future energy crisis by tapping into energy that's literally from hell. like mining hell, like an oil reserve. And this
That
doesn't.
seems reasonable. I did pretty much that in Minecraft.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a good line like from a later mission where you hear like sort of over like announcer voice say, "The road to hell is paved with clean energy," which is
So I just had that line, and I didn't hear the end of it, but I assumed that it was going to be like their company name, whatever it is. Like, the road to hell is paved by
this
Omnicorp.
We did it. We made that road to hell. And so yeah, and then it's a lot of biffing. Like the you've not got to. There is a skippable story thing in Hell, which I don't think you've got to yet.
I've just reached Hell, but I haven't had a story sting.
There are essentially skippable audio diaries in Hell from the perspective of Hell, which is like, what's this guy's problem? Like, why must he kick the shit out of all of us?
Are they the artifact things? Yeah. I activated them, but I didn't listen to whatever was being said.
Quite. Honestly, I'm really enjoying it across the board. I think that it's weird to talk about Doom though without talking about the thing that it's about, which is entirely the combat system, which is.
Would I like it? Would I like Doom?
No.
Is it like Duke Nukem?
Yes.
I quite like that.
Okay.
Are there any FPSs that you play like for the pleasure of the combat?
Not really. I play them because I like being accurate at shooting things sometimes.
Yeah, you might like this. It's very gory.
Okay.
There's a
I'll
lot
give
of.
it a go.
There's a lot of. You can have a go later. Like it's a lot of.
It's more that if it's like.
There's a lot of kicking things until their skulls explode.
Right. I don't mind that. I mind neck slitting, anything with wrists, and injections.
No injections.
You're probably all right. There's not a lot of slitting because it's all more violent than slitting.
Bioshock is too much injections.
Okay. How do you feel about like chainsawing someone?
That's fine.
As they put up like an arm to stop them, and then it goes through the arm first, and then like sort of like straight through the rest of them.
I saw that in the trailer.
I fed a man his leg earlier.
Yeah, you can do that.
I've been doing a comedy thing where like it's almost like a written joke where on each mission they give you a bunch of optional objectives, and if you do those you get extra upgrade points, so I always try and do them. And one of them is this certain type of enemy called a Hellraiser. You've got to weaken them. The melee mechanic in it is once enemies are weak enough, they go into like a dazed state, and when they're in the dazed state, just pressing melee on them will kill them in a gruesome close-up animation, and it's specific to like the direction you approach them from, where you're aiming on them. If you jump on top of them, there's special kills for that. And this one was like, do a leg sweep on 4 Hellraisers, and in brackets it says, do a glory kill on their right leg. And I went through and like, I kept doing it, and sometimes it's hard to judge whether you're actually like, whether it's going to count as a leg kill or a body kill or a back kill, depending on like where they're standing. But I successfully did a leg thing, and I ripped their leg off, and then I shoved it down their throat.
Oh my God.
And I like, well, I guess maybe that's a leg sweep, I don't know. But it didn't unlock, and I did it like 3 more times. Like, come on, why is this not unlocking?
Why am I still doing this?
And then I realized, I'm looking at my right. It's their right. Sorry. I'm so sorry, man. Let me pull that leg out of your mouth. This is just a misunderstanding. I thought that was your right leg, but actually that's your left leg from your perspective.
It's like learning a dance.
No wonder you have so many problems with mirrors.
Left is opposite of right. I'll give you that.
The reason it's so good, and I do genuinely think it's great, like I was surprised because I liked the multiplayer beta. I thought it was okay, and I still think the multiplayer in this is okay, not amazing. Better than COD or most modern deathmatch games, I think, just because the mechanics are better, and I would say that fully as a Quake nerd, but because there's a lot of Quake's DNA in this as well. The reason it's great is not because it just resurrects something about Doom that's fun, which is like running around really quickly with a shotgun, blowing up demons that go blah, although that is very good. It's because it pulls out a bunch of the qualities of those old games in a way that kind of makes them feel really modern, and also sort of fixes problems with modern shooters. So, and the new stuff is sort of exemplifies this. So, if you play New Doom by hiding, running around backwards, strafe, like sort of skirting enemies, trying to get hits in, then you're playing it wrong, because it actively encourages you to like get into a fight and then just see where it goes. And it does this because the problem a lot of shooters have is if you get really stuck in, then you put yourself in the worst possible position to survive, because either it has like a health regeneration mechanic where you have to not take damage for a certain amount of time to get your health back, in which case it encourages
or you need
hiding.
a shield, or
or it has a health pickup mechanic where you have to like leave momentarily to go and find the health pack and come back. The way Doom works, it has health pickups and it doesn't have any regeneration, but the way it works is when you kill an enemy, they have a chance to drop a health pickup. If you do one of the brutal glory kills on an enemy, they have a chance to drop much more health or loads of health.
Yeah.
And if you do a chainsaw takedown on them, which consumes a limited supply of fuel, then they have a chance to drop shitloads of ammo.
Yeah.
So all of the resources you want, you can get from the environment between big arena combat encounters.
It seems to be pretty much guaranteed, actually. Like, if you do a melee kill,
you always get something.
Get health.
You get a variable amount, though. Like, sometimes you get loads, sometimes you get a little bit. But the reason this is brilliant, and I feel like I worry, actually, about the number of reviews that are not going to mention this, because I feel like genuinely is genius, like a piece of design, is it means that when you end up in a really familiar shooter situation, which is I've got next to no health, and I don't think the transaction of the next few encounters works out for me. In most shooters, that's either either you just get your health back automatically, in which case the tension is gone, or you try, probably die, load a save, move on. Like, I'm playing Doom on the hardest setting it will allow you to play on from the start of the game, and I thoroughly recommend that because I think it's brilliantly pitched. Because I've played loads and it's been quite hard, but I've only died like 3 times. And the reason for that is you get those moments where it's quite hard, and then your best option is not to run away or to hide and regenerate. It's to commit in like all or nothing. And when you do that, you'll often get to this brilliant moment where you like just do enough damage to trigger the glory kill, and then the glory kill gets you almost all of your health back. And so it turns what would be just a failure state in a lot of shooters where, oh, I've probably fucked this one up, I'll try it again and be a bit more accurate and conserve a bit more of my health and make sure the transaction of the combat encounter goes my way rather than the other way. It turns those moments into like these sort of like Hail Mary successes. And I was talking to Tom Senior about it because we both, I think, love it for the same reason. And the way he put it was like, it's like everything in the world feels powerful and everything feels like it can kill you. But when you commit to fighting them, you realize that you're slightly more powerful than everything. And it manages a really careful balance where that doesn't feel like you're completely overpowered, because little things can kill you, but you don't feel ever that your best option is to backpedal or kite things or whatever. It's really, really clever for a game that is so spectacularly dumb.
Yeah, I think it's sort of maybe misfiled by some people. I think the sort of casual way to refer to it is like, oh, they've gone back to the roots and they're doing the classic thing. They kind of are in a bunch of ways, but as you say, like, it's actually a whole load of really new design ideas that actually make it work. It's, you know, regenerating health from melee kills, and the switching between the chainsaw and other weapons to get your ammo back is, like, chainsaw, the ammo for that is just lying around the levels and you have to get it from there. I don't think you ever get it from any other source. But everything else can be restocked by the chainsaw. And when you kill someone with a chainsaw, like, it just spews just a fountain of ammo. It's like more than you can pick up. They will still be lying on the ground afterwards. And I had a thing where, like, the way I've been playing is I've sort of focused my upgrades a lot. So early on, I just focused on the pistol that you have infinite ammo for, because I really like the charge mode in that, where you charge up a shot for as long as you like, and you can aim it very precisely, and headshots do a lot of damage. And then once you get loads of weapons really fast. You kind of get, I didn't find the chainsaw for ages, so I just got the shotgun and the machine gun, and then, like, suddenly got the chainsaw and the plasma rifle and the rocket launcher, I think, all in one level. And then the next level, I got the minigun and the Gauss rifle and, the super shotgun all at the same time. And once I got the rocket launcher, I focused pretty much all my upgrades into that. And, I chose, the way it works is like each weapon can have 2 different mods, and then each mod has a bunch of upgrades. So I think you never upgrade the primary fire, but you upgrade the secondary fire, and you choose what the secondary fire is. And for the rocket launcher, it's either charge it up to 3 missiles, I think, and it locks on to a target, which is very much how the Unreal Tournament rocket launcher works. And that sounded really, really effective, and probably what I need, because the bosses are the things.
It is really good. Yeah.
But the other one was right mouse, all it does is just detonate the rocket that you just fired. So it doesn't really directly add any power. It's just a kind of utility thing. And I thought, that's probably not as effective as the other thing, but that just sounds really interesting. So I went for that. And then I've just been upgrading that loads. And actually, once you upgrade it, it really is fucking powerful. Because the one rule of rocket launchers is you aim at their feet, right? So that if you miss, then you still do splash damage. And with this, you don't need to, because you can just, you airburst it wherever you want. So, you can do things like rocket headshots, because you're quite likely to miss. But even if you do, you just detonate it really close to their head. And then you can upgrade its blast radius, and it can do damage over time. And then I think after you've done that, that unlocks the mastery thing, where you have to then get a certain number of kills with it to make it even more powerful. Oh no, the upgrade for that is like once you have all the upgrades, all the basic upgrades for a mod, then you have to complete some kind of challenge to unlock the last one. And the last one for the airburst thing is that you can still airburst it, but after you airburst it, the rocket still carries on and still hits stuff normally. So you basically kind of get 2 rockets for the price of one, which I haven't unlocked yet, but that's great. But so the chainsaw thing is, the rocket launcher is like, I've upgraded it in such a way that it's the best thing against crowds and it's the best thing against bosses, because it just does a crazy amount of damage and also over a huge area. So if I just use the best thing at all times, then I run out of ammo for the rocket launcher. And then I was in a situation where I'd just done that, and I'm also wasting rockets on on enemies that aren't that dangerous to me, because the way you upgrade it is to get more than 3 kills with each burst, and you've got to do that 15 times to upgrade it. And so I'm wasting all my rockets, and then cacodemons got introduced, and I hadn't encountered those before, and 2 of them fly towards you, and I was just I think I did switch to another weapon. I was just gunning them down as much as I could, just pumping everything I had into them as they came towards me and fired plasma balls at me. And then I was on a really high cliff, and just as they came sort of within 5 meters, I got the first one down low enough that he started to glow in the way that tells you can do a melee kill on him. So I jumped off the cliff, got the chainsaw out, and dug the chainsaw into him, and he in midair bursts into the shower of ammunition, which then completely restocks my rocket launcher, and now I can do all that crazy airburst stuff again and destroy everyone. That's awesome.
That's rad. I had a cool moment also with midair chainsawing a cacodemon, where I realized that I was about to fall to my death if I carried on my kind of forward arc after chainsawing him. But I had the Gauss cannon out. One of the great things with the Gauss cannon is it arrests your forward momentum while you're in the air. So I used it to stop myself like a brake.
I immediately died when I got the Gauss cannon, because you get it on an island, and then a bunch of flying skulls spawn across from you. And I shot at some from where I was standing, and then they were all firing things at me, so I had to dodge, and I was on a small island, so let's go off this island, did a double jump across, and in mid-air shot a skull, and it completely stopped the momentum, so my double jump just stopped dead and just fell to my death.
But yeah, it's great. The rad thing about those upgrades are all great, actually. They add really interesting things to every gun. Then when you have both secondary fires for a gun, you can swap them using R.
I haven't done that yet.
Which sort of is one of the best, so the other thing about that game, apart from the gruesome takedowns and the mechanics of the combat system, is everything feels amazing. Every gun, the side effects are brilliant. It's sort of got that, as well as being a good combat simulator or good combat system, it's also the most gratifying stapler you've ever used. And there's tons of great little incidental animations. It looks it looks great, great animations for monsters for throwing fireballs at you when they're running and stuff like that, and everything looks really smooth. But also, I definitely have these moments with it where I'm chaining weapons together, because I really like switching weapons as a thing, or switching upgrades, and it does a really good job of feeling like you're playing through a kind of impossible sort of combat demo thing where people, you know what I mean? Most FPSs come down to just use the good gun. Yeah. And when you've run out of ammo for the good gun, use the other gun. And I found myself with Doom, you can upgrade your health and armor and ammo capacity. And I found myself not upgrading ammo capacity at all, because I like being forced to switch. I like that moment where you're oh shit, how can I do this with the shotgun? But I had a moment where the normal machine gun has a scope that you can put on it, or a rocket pod that you can attach to the bottom that attaches these little seeker missiles that embed themselves in stuff before they explode, a little swarm of missiles. And running into a level with the scope on and scoping to take down a couple of guys from far away, then leaping into the air and ripping the scope off the top and slamming the rocket pod into the bottom, and then firing that like as I go around a corner, so it hits the guy that's running around the corner, and he staggers, and I rip his horn off, and then bury his horn in his eye, and then I chainsaw his friend, and then there's some heavy metal, and it's cool.
The chainsaw is like a really strange thing. All I'd heard about it before is it just has very limited ammo, but it's almost like that is true. But it's almost like you have chainsaw points, because how, like, whether or not you can actually, if you do it, it's just an insta kill on whatever you do it on. But you need enough chainsaw points to take it out.
It's
so
fuel,
like,
basically. It's like 5 fuel units.
Yeah, they call it fuel. But yeah, so it's like how tough the thing is determines how much fuel it takes to kill it. And it doesn't really relate to how long it takes to kill it. Like, yeah, big things probably take a little bit longer, but not like 6 times as long. And so, yeah, it's this weird, like, it's almost like takedown points. If you have enough, then you can just, like, I've had situations where, like, they introduce a new boss and I just walked up to it and chainsaw it.
I think
I solved that.
A good way of understanding is old school, but it's old school in the way that something like Geometry Wars is old school, where it's like fundamentally a modern version of an old idea. And actually, I think that arcade shooter comparison makes a lot of sense with Doom, because you totally have like smart bombs and get out of jail free cards in the chainsaw and the takedowns and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's about kind of like, always moving, always navigating, and always shooting in a big 3D arena, and then sort of occasionally deploying these other powers to kind of like balance the odds again, so you can keep going. It's great.
I've been enjoying the optional challenges of, like, one of them was to get, I don't know, like 4 deaths from above kills on a certain kind of enemy, and they do the thing that achievements are best at, which is make you aware that something can be done. Like, I don't think I'd ever done a death from above kill properly until they told me to. And then when I tried it, like, a bunch of things I tried didn't count as one. It was like I was just jumping and attacking, and I didn't have double jump, so I wasn't getting much height. And it was just basically a front kill or a side kill or whatever. And then I, actually got some proper height and jumped on someone and realized, oh, that's a death from above kill. And now that I know that, I do it a lot. And now I've got double jump, I can do it really easily. And doing that stuff has just been like a fun extra challenge. And I've also kind of geared, you can unlock runes by doing special challenges. It's actually the first game where, like, the sort of bullshit fairground challenges are something I look forward to. Like, you find runes, and then when you use them, it takes you to an alternate dimension where you, well, I guess hell, where
it's hell.
It spawns, like, 30 enemies, and you have this weapon, and you got to kill them, like, this many within this amount of time. And if you do that, you get a rune, and the runes just tweak certain little passive buffs. But the ones I've slotted in are enemies stay stunned for longer, so I have more time to line up the kind of takedown I want to do, so I can do, like, a death and above.
Excuse me, so which one is your right leg? Okay.
Yeah. Now, from his perspective, this is... and then the other one I've just unlocked, it, like, increases the range from which you can do a glory kill, the melee thing. And that... I'm interested in that because I noticed early on that if someone's stunned and in a position, if they're susceptible to do a glory kill, and you're like, they're on top of a crate and you're below it, you can, and you're jumping towards them or something, you can just press that button and you will kind of snap to their position. So you can kind of, like, jump to ledges basically with it. Like, it sort of teleports you a short distance. And so if I can increase that distance, maybe I can actually use that for cool, mobility stuff.
I had a really good time with that death from above thing before you have double jump, like trying to take people down when they were near boxes, so I could climb up on the box and like drop them like I'm climbing up on the ropes in a wrestling ring and stuff. It's cool. It's real good. You also punch the little robots when you get the upgrade. It's a fun animation.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I feel bad for the robot.
Yeah. You walk up to a little robot who's like, which upgrade do you want? You have this one. And then he won't give it to you. So you punch the little robot. Then he has to give it to you.
Oh, you have to bully the robot. That's sad.
Doom. It's a brutal future.
I thought, my interpretation was that he'd already given you the upgrade and then you just punch him because you're a dick.
Yeah, no, I think you punch. I think you're a dick. Yeah,
Aww.
The dick marine is what you're.
This is like how in the in regular League of Legends maps, the Rift Herald is one of your objectives, and it's the only thing on the map that will run away from you rather than attack you. And I always feel so guilty about killing it and watching other people kill it. But like when it dies, it leaves its little antenna poking out of the mud.
Oh man!
And like it gives you vision of that area. So, so like it's worth doing, but it's like, oh.
It took me a lot of. I killed the treasure goblin in Diablo 3 a lot of times before I started to ask myself, Is this the right thing to do? Like, Treasure Goblin, all he does is just spawn and then run away from you.
Yeah.
That's the type of
He's
question
not an
Peter
enemy.
Molyneux would dream of making you ask.
But it's like, his crime is he just has a lot of stuff.
You
And so
won.
you've got to murder him before he can escape you so that you get all his stuff. Isn't that just crimes? Isn't that just multiple crimes?
Robbing from the rich to give to the super rich
Self.
and heavily armed. Who knows? Yeah. A modern life story or something.
The other red thing about Doom. There's loads of more red things about Doom, actually.
You should just get a Tumblr for this.
Get a room, Doom. Get a Doom. Get a Doom room.
Get to doom.tumblr.com.
So
Get a
two
Tumblr.
more things I want to say. One is that it isn't just like a Serious Sam style fight through big arena shooter. The other thing they've remembered about those games is they were also fundamentally about exploration and map secrets. And there are loads of them, and lots of them are really satisfying to find. To like unpick special routes through levels and unlock everything. And I can actually imagine myself replaying it to find stuff, which is rare. The other thing that's rad about it is its map editor, which has this sort of mixed multiplayer, single player sort of, it's called Snap Map, which is a sort of play on the fact that things snap together, but also I think literally a play on Snapchat, because it's all about sharing these like little maps with each other and stuff, and you can do like not mega sophisticated stuff, but like fairly sophisticated, like, you know, AI triggers and stuff to create your own little levels. There are definite limitations on it, but one of the coolest things about it is its advanced tutorial in terms of like scripting and things is actually a puzzle game where you are told, you're given a challenge, like, for example, I think it's like there are 5 enemies in this room. You got to kill them all. However, if any of them take damage and don't die, you fail. And I think if they don't all die at once, you fail. And so what you've then got to do is tweak the variables of the level so that's possible, which might mean like, I'm going to give myself a rocket launcher, but it's going to do like 5,000% more damage. Or I'm going to take their health and put all their health down to 1.
All right.
Or, you know, create a trigger so if one dies, they all die. However you want to do it. And it's how it teaches...
Domino.
Yeah, domino. It's how it teaches you scripting. But, like, I wouldn't have expected to find a sort of, you know, scripting-based puzzle game hidden in Doom. Let alone... And that's completely separate as well from the multiplayer mode. Which is stress, like... I think it's like a 7 out of 10 multiplayer mode on a high 8s, 9 out of 10 basic shooter. Which is maybe a shame, but it's certainly not terrible either. Like, it's a surprisingly well-rounded thing for what is essentially a game about having a big shotgun and someone playing a guitar and going like, blah. Doom.
That sounds awesome. I think that might be my tomorrow evening sorted.
It should be. It's excellent.
You went to a League of Legends tournament, didn't you, Pip?
I did. I'm not sure.
What was it?
It was the mid-season invitational, which was in Shanghai.
Oh, so this is part of like the official track.
Part of the... Well, there aren't many
that-
unofficial
Okay,
events,
it's all
if
official.
you see what I mean. There's pretty much... Like, so what you have is you have generally like the spring splits, which is like the... Almost like the autumn term. Like, you know, when you're sort of back to school and you've got all your
And
books
I have to buy their
and
new
things.
exercise books and then...
Yeah, you ease yourself back in, you remember who all of your friends are, where you sit for lunch.
Do kids still have exercise books at school?
I
Is it
don't
all
know. I
computerised
feel
now?
really old. I was listening to
know.
a podcast about lunchboxes and I was like, do they lunchbox anymore? Who even does this? And then after that, you get like, you know, the playoffs and things and sort of the promotional stuff, you know, where people go up or down between the professional and the tier just below that. You also have now this thing called the Mid-Season Invitational, which is between the spring and summer split. It used to be the All-Star, where they kind of folded in a load of like fan servicey kind of events. So there was like some serious competition and there was like also like the sort of show match things where like people would vote on who they wanted to be on what team or whatever, and there'd be like 1v1 stuff or like silly kind of things. But then they decided to separate that stuff out, so like the fun only happens in the off season. You know, like it basically All-Star became kind of like a muck-up day. Like at the end of the school year after Worlds, which was basically like your GCSE finals or something. Anyway, so yeah, the Mid-Season Invitational was the thing that is now, and then upcoming is the summer split. And it was the teams who had all won their relative regions from like the major regions. So Korea, China, LMS, which is like Taiwan and places like that. The team was Taiwanese, hence. And North America and Europe. And then there's like an international wildcard thing. And Europe kind of felt so hard. And there was like a lot of like, well, maybe they shouldn't have gone on vacation before the event, but then they were kind of like, we were knackered. So we decided it would be better if they went home, and like all stuff about like visas and like transportation issues, you know, like basically stuff about like not wanting to arrange scrims, which are like practice matches, because if you don't know that you're even going to be going, and like it's really hard to sort out a visa to China if you know, like all of that kind of stuff. So it was kind of an interesting, like, I guess, talking point about like just the pressures of being an esports athlete, and like how, like, you know, when you get to take your holiday, and like, are you being lazy or are you not being, you know, it's that kind of thing. So that was kind of interesting. But I was only out there for the knockout stage. So they have groups where they had like a double round robin thing, and they had everyone play each other like a couple of times. And then, yeah, like the knockout stage, which was like the two semi-finals and then the finals. And yeah, I have no idea if any of that was interesting.
But like, so did it feel different seeing esports in China? Because I know that, like, I've been to Taiwan for esports, but I'm so used to the way that tournaments happen in Europe or in America that I'd be interested to know if it felt different in Shanghai or...
Not particularly, although I would say, like, I think it was a slightly muted atmosphere in some ways, because like the crowd was still sort of into it, but the home team, the Royal Never Give Up, who are from China, or they're based in China.
Royal Never Give Up,
which is shortened to RNG. Anyway, so they were the representatives for the Chinese region, but they got knocked out on the first day of semi-finals against the Korean team. And so, like, obviously the final and the next day's play weren't going to feature a home side. And, like, that's not usually a problem, and it wasn't a problem here. It's more that it's kind of nice when the region that you're in's team gets further, because like people are really sort of screaming for them and really going for it.
Is Korea sort of typically the best at LoL, or? Yeah,
like, well, and they also have a team called SKT, which is SK Telecom T1. And they have a guy called Faker, and he is like generally considered to be LoL's wunderkind.
I think I read an article about him.
Yeah, you will have. Yeah. And it's really noticeable because it's basically like at the end of any event where they've won, and they've won like 2 worlds. Like this was the last thing that they needed to win to like kind of complete all of the league like major things, and Faker particularly. But like when you go to a press conference involving SKT, it's basically, has anyone got any questions for Faker or the others? Like so many times it's like, and who's that question to? And the journalist is like, it's Faker. Or, you know, so like it goes Faker and then like Coma, who's their coach. I
really love like the sort of legends of players, like even in games that I don't particularly follow. In StarCraft, like the sort of StarCraft 1, I think the biggest star of that scene was Boxer. And then in StarCraft 2, for a while, one of the best, maybe the best player in the world, was just called himself Boxer. Like the previous guy was called Slayer's Boxer, and he just called himself Boxer. But then people didn't, like, obviously people got understandably annoyed at calling him the same thing, so they started to call him Fake Boxer, and they sometimes shortened that to like Foxer.
Or Faker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what made me think of it. Is like, he also had fake in his name and was really good. And then eventually,
God, I don't know.
it was quite nice actually, because like, a terrible like esports name. This guy was like, Boxer was brilliant at everything, and I think Marine Control was probably one of those things, but
Didn't he
Fake Boxer...
reinvent loads of the meta again and again
Probably.
and again or something?
Actually, yeah, there's a really interesting split in StarCraft between the people who are just the best and people who invent new stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, I wish I could remember his name. It's not Innovation. You would think it was Innovation, but it's not Innovation. It's someone else. Innovation is, funnily enough, just someone who's really fucking good. Whereas there's somebody else, I can't remember who he is, but he never wins
Very
tournaments.
consistent man is his name.
Well, no, this guy is not consistent. He doesn't
Erratic
win
man.
The tournaments that much, but every now and then he just changes the entire game. He just does something in a match and everyone's just like, you can do that? What?
Yeah.
I think I saw him do a spine crawler parade where he just built spine crawlers across the entire map into the enemy base, and everyone's like, what? We don't have a defense for that. And then for the next 3 weeks on the ladder, everyone was doing that as Zerg.
Yeah.
That was just the new thing. And then someone figured out what the antidote was to.
Yeah, I think if Box is the guy that I'm thinking of, he kind of reinvented StarCraft a couple of times, then went off to do military service and then came back and did it again.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, because they have mandatory military service.
Yeah.
And so major stars just have to go off and be soldiers for a while and then come back.
But yeah, so one of the interesting things was that Korea did win, and they did win 3-0, but it was because it was best of 5 series, but they weren't it wasn't a tournament where they just absolutely crushed. They weren't on their best form that they've ever been. In fact, it was pretty for them it was pretty disastrous early on, and in the group stages they lost 4 games in a row, which was just are you kidding me?
Wow.
And then sort of were pulling it back, and against RNG they actually put on a really sort of a far better showing. They're nowhere near, or it wasn't on the level that I saw them playing at Worlds at the end of last year, for example. But it was kind of interesting. But yeah, so this time it didn't feel like a complete wash, which was nice, because sometimes you do go along to something and there is a dominant team and it just kind of sucks the air out of the room. You're kind of pleased for them because it's nice to win, but you want that bite to the matches and you want that tension.
Yeah.
And a couple of times in the final, the North American team, who are actually doing super well for their region, because their region is characteristically underperformed. And I say characteristically with kind of a bit of reticence, because these narratives that people have kind of settled on for LOL are based on only 6 years really, and it's still such a young scene that it still feels so weird to say that's a theme or that's
why I was curious that whether Korea was dominant, because in StarCraft Korea are dominant because they've just kind of had it's just been part of their culture for so long that, of course, in StarCraft 2 they're dominating because they did in StarCraft 1, and they've just, a lot of the people who are dominating StarCraft 2 were playing back then and have grown up with it, whereas newer stuff.
I think the structures of the various leagues help with that, because I really can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think they play more games in the Chinese league, which is the LPL, and I think in the LCK, which is the Korean one, I think they just play more games. Instead of playing your opponent once, it's I think you play them, there's 2 games in a set in Korea, and I think it might even be 3 in China, but I really can't remember. But
I mean, the big thing for Korean LoL is that Korea took to LoL massively.
Yeah.
And then all of the apparatus that was put in place for StarCraft, a lot of it was relevant to LoL.
Right.
Which is why they haven't dominated Dota, because the interest wasn't really there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Because Korea is I
don't remember them.
It's not them
dominating Dota.
Well, one of the narratives of Dota last year was Korea's arrived, because finally a Korea team was doing well. They've now kind of gone away again. But yeah, it is interesting. Because LoL is, I mean, because it's even then saying SKT had a rougher tournament.
Yeah.
They still won the final 3-0.
Exactly. But there was still a bit of traction from CLG. It waned over the course of the 3. The third one was the more convincing stomp, I guess. It felt a lot more that SKT had snowballed into the lead early, and there was really not much CLG could do to come back. But that first game, they nearly turned it. And then there was an awful team fight where you're just oh my god, You know, like, I think I just wrote "oh dear" in my notebook and underlined it a few times. It was just like, oh. But yeah, and so I think that was promising just for me as somebody who attends these things pretty regularly, that maybe I won't just be writing variations on the same story for years. It might be that in, you know, the next MSI, it's a completely different, you know, it might well not be, but yeah. So, and I think it was encouraging, I guess, that it did feel a bit different. But the other weird thing though was so mostly at these things you sort of go in and before everybody's getting super hyped up and stuff and like writing their little like writing particular memes or slogans or like people's names or marriage proposals to Faker or whoever, like on those little placards that you can just pick up as you go into the arena, or getting their face painted, or like at merch booths or whatever. But for this, and I really don't know if this was like a particular like trade restriction or a business thing, but you couldn't do any of that stuff beforehand. Like that stuff only started with the game. So the games would start at 1:30, and then it was then was when the merch booth opened. Then
That's
was
weird.
when the face transfers started, and
The face transfers.
like I mean like the
Domino.
like little like temporary tattoos.
Transfers onto your face.
Yeah, sorry,
Of
yeah,
other images.
that
Like, Jesus
sounds
Christ.
so weird. But yeah, so it was kind of like that was a kind of okay. So it was weird not having that same level of hype pre-game, because what the previous tournament that I've been to in Asia was in Korea for Worlds 2014, and that had like cosplay going on. It had people lining up for ages for a t-shirt. It had like, you know, pro players like from, I don't know, like from Cloud9 like wandering around, people stopping them for photos, and like there was just so much stuff going on outside and sort of on the concourses and in the arena proper. And it was so strange to sort of see it so muted, I guess, before.
The hype may not commence until after the games have begun, for some
It was,
reason.
I genuinely would be interested to know why that was. But it was, yeah, it was so strange to me that was the case. But it might have just been that, you know, you're only allowed to trade during like the time of an event, and the event is considered to start at the, you know, the first whistle almost. But yeah.
Some quite major StarCraft players were like convicted recently of match fixing, like
Life
an
was it?
actual crime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think
Life
so.
was like one of my favorite players. I really, he was the one who royal roaded
Was he
the
a
GSL.
Royal Roader? Yeah, like I
so
thought
he's,
he
he's
was.
a Zerg, so I'm always rooting for him anyway because he's a Zerg. And then he just came out of nowhere and just stomped everybody. He just didn't lose a game in the entire thing. And the thing I sometimes share about that moment was it was fantastic. I was really excited to see it. And then also like it shows his parents, and his mum is like on her feet and like her hands over her mouth, just can't believe it, just so excited. And his
Yeah.
dad is just sitting there just completely unimpressed. He just looks like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? I was like, that is a hard dad to impress. You just
Yeah.
like stomped the hardest tournament in the world for the hardest game in the world. No one defeated you, and your dad's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but can you build a wall? No.
Maybe his dad knew he was a match fixer at heart.
Ooh, yeah. Well, maybe he was supposed to throw a game. His dad was just like,
His dad bet
I
against
bet against you.
Well, that's an even worse dad than the one I was imagining.
Well, at the moment, I'm kind of interested to see how the North American league scene shakes out, because they've just had a round of bans for particular teams, and sort of so 3 of them are going to have to sell their spot, in 2 of them in the LCS and 1 of them in the Challenger League, which is the one just below that you can get promoted from. So that'll be an interesting one. And a few people got kind of, well, 1 person got perma banned, 2 people got indefinitely banned, and one of the shoutcasters he's not banned from casting at all, because that's all like freelance work and all of that stuff, but he's banned from holding a team related position in Riot sponsored games and stuff. So like he can't manage anymore for a year, and stuff like that. So
Drams in the digital sports.
indeed. So I'm sort of curious to see what that does and the sort of the echoes of that in the next season. But yeah, so it was good, but it's one of those things where there were a few things about it that were different, but I don't know whether that was like because of country rules or whatever, or because it was just that particular venue or something, or it was just an odd choice. But yeah, it was cool being out there, but like also I didn't really get a chance to see much, except I went to a park that had a bonsai garden, and I was like, I was so excited because I thought I would get to like pretend to be a monster and like tower over trees and be a giant, and those bonsais are enormous. Like it's kind of like the sort of thing where I don't think that you should get to call them a bonsai if you need a really big tree as a comparison to prove that it's a bonsai, because these things were like, there were some of them that were more than like 7 foot, and I'm just going, just because it's in a pot, that's not a bonsai tree. Like, I guess, you know, maybe some of them would have been like 50 foot or something if they'd been allowed to grow wild. But
believe us, this is smaller than typical.
yeah, like, you know, if you need someone to vouch for that tree, then that's not a bonsai to me.
Does bonsai like mean small, or is it one of those things where like sushi, everyone thinks it means raw fish, but actually means sour rice?
Oh, I don't know, actually. Maybe it does. Maybe it just means
Maybe it
in
means
a pot.
Fancy
Or
tree or
something.
something.
Yeah.
Pretty tree.
I know. Oh, but yeah, and there was like
Maybe it means sour rice.
there was a pond where you could buy some bait and like dangle it in the water so that the koi would come over to you. Like, you weren't catching them, but you were just sort of tempting them over so you could like have a good look and stuff like that. And then like there was a plum orchard there, like plum groves, and like a little, they call it a cobble beach, which is kind of cool. And yeah, like a bird island, which sounded terrifying to me. And then I accidentally found pigeon lawn, which was just absolutely traumatic, because essentially it was like this little wooden cabin building just to the side of one of the paths, and it was properly covered in pigeons and doves. And it was because there were a couple of dudes there selling bird feed, and you could buy the bird feed and just sort of sit with your kid and like tempt the birds over. And so obviously the birds, like, word had got around, and so
Everybody's heard about the bird seed.
And so they'd all like
Dangerous
come
game you're
over,
playing with.
and you'd look up and there'd be birds like gazing down at you, and then like a little kid would go over with like the grain in their hand, and the birds would just be like, ooh, and you'd be like, oh, this is weird and awful and scary. So, but like they didn't really have a far radius, so I just got as far enough away as possible.
Outside of the splash damage.
Yeah, basically away from bird zero. And then I was a bit more at ease, and then I spent a lot of time poking around in the riverside trying to find a frog. But yeah, so.
And that's China.
Oh, there was a man fishing next to a no fishing sign. That was good. I was like, you
police.
live your best life. So yeah, so that was good. I nearly joined a fun run by accident. But yeah, I was going the wrong way though, so it's fine, I think.
If anything, you're the opposite of that fun run.
Yeah. What is the opposite of a fun run?
A marathon.
Huh?
Sad stand.
Oh, they had a really cool thing that was kind of like...
You named something that's very similar to a fun run.
This is really annoying you. There was a bouncy castle there as well. Well, I thought it was a bouncy castle, so I was going over to see
Just a
what the
structurally
age
unsound
limit
castle.
was. And
Which
then,
is the opposite of the castle.
and then it turned out that it was kind of like a cone in the middle of a bouncy castle, and on the cone was also inflated, by the way. It wasn't just a random cone. It was really tall, and it had like all of these handholds, and it was basically like wall climbing, but for children,
Oh, wow.
because it was all like inflated and stuff, so you'd watch them like getting up and then falling down and stuff. I was like, yeah, pretty good.
What's the opposite of a bouncy castle? But
Concrete.
okay.
Just concrete in general. Not formed in any way.
No, these make perfect sense.
It's definitely not bouncy.
And then I was going to go for a little, like, boating pedal thing round the pond. But then I was going to miss my shuttle to the venue. Oh, we don't... I tell you what, like, I don't think this was on purpose by them. It was just, like, the route back to the hotel. But, like, you went from the League of Legends, like, well-executed Shanghai event past the stadium that had hosted the Dota 2 disastrous Shanghai event. So I was kind of like, oh, it's the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Rip Dota. But yeah.
34,000 UFO. CT UFO.
Yeah, it was pretty cool though. Like the actual building is like really cool. Anyway,
full of mistakes.
Yeah.
It's that cool building full of mistakes.
I have no idea if that was cool, but yes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Are we all hot to question?
Yes.
Yes.
So mix things up there.
Let's question everything.
That's a question.
Whose slogan was that? Was that EA?
Question.
No, challenge everything.
question everything was, I know,
LA
WikiLeaks.
Noir.
Pip, what's the opposite of a question?
An answer.
Nice.
All right, I agree with that. David Peasley writes, Dear all, the very first part of the Battlefield 1 media barrage to hit my face before I saw the trailer was some line about bringing a horse to a tank fight. This caused me to wholly invent a version of the game in which both sides start with primitive horses, bows, melee, and race to out-tech the other team, much like in Age of Empires when your club-wielding tribesmen were at risk of being demolished by medieval knights if you didn't keep up with the march of progress. Needless to say, I was slightly disappointed to watch the trailer and see what reality had in store for me. So my question is this: when have you let your imagination run away from you with regards to unreleased games? Keep on in there, everybody. Dave. Midnight shower boy in brackets.
Everyone likes a midnight shower.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to this, but I thought that was a cool imagination of a game. It would be great if you you capture your first victory point and that gets you to the medieval age, and if the enemy has 6 victory points, they have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it would be shit in some ways.
Yeah, shit, but cool.
I don't think I've done that recently for a game, but I do it a lot with Warcraft stuff because I don't play Warcraft games anymore apart from the Dota sort of flavour. But I do need to still cover the news stuff for people that are interested. And so, but you sort of see these snippets of a game and then you just sort of are tempted to fill in the blanks. So I watched the Warcraft... I think I either watched the trailer or I did something, like I was reading about it, the movie. And so I just sort of made it up. No, it was the poster, because it's like, isn't it 2 races, 1 world or something? Is the
yes,
like tagline
much,
on the movie trailer, on the movie poster, and there's like a sword down the middle and it separates one half of like an orc face and one half of a human face, and I decided that it was probably going to be a romantic comedy about an orc and a human who sort of like have this odd couple relationship but then gradually fall in love.
It may yet be.
I think it actually is.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I was kind of right. And then there was this other one where like there's a book, an Illidan book that's coming out, and they released like the cover artwork, and it's amazing because he basically
you wouldn't be able to read it.
He looks like a WWE wrestler, and so I made up like his whole backstory, but like based on the Warcraft lore that I knew.
He actually did a face heel turn like a couple of times, so yeah, that works.
But yeah,
that Warcraft poster could also indicate a tragic story of a man or an orc who has a face transplant. A face transplant that gives him half a human face.
A face transfer,
at the start of a League of Legends game.
Yes.
At the start of a League of Legends game, yeah, he was queuing outside.
Face transfer.
He only wanted his face painted,
Yeah.
but now he's half a human.
Misunderstood the sense of the word transfer that they intended.
Yeah.
Aww.
I've just realised that actually there is... it hasn't happened yet, but there's going to be an answer to this question in No Man's Sky, where the early trailers were so vague that just everybody made up their own game, and they all made up different games, and they didn't realise they were different, and they all just went off in their own little flights of fantasy. Like, I remember someone saying, like, oh, Destiny is fucked now. I'm not sure you know what this game is.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, I kind of do it a lot with, like... sort of those weirdly non-specific reveal trailers where they're just like, here are a few like moody cinematics, make it up yourself, and you're just like, okay, well, here's the story. But yeah, so those are the things that I tend to do. It's more Warcraft kind of nonsense.
Because I haven't done it for years, but I did imagine what Mass Effect 3 was going to be like for years before they'd even announced it, really. In a state of basically constant panic that it was going to be bad.
Was this sort of in the region of like fan fiction style imaginings? Like how fleshed out was this?
More
how
things I
many
wanted
of your
to happen.
own characters
I was
would
trying
appear?
I was trying to figure out how they were going to end it. And I was like, it's going to end around Earth. It was always going to. So I got that right. And there was going to have to be a bit where all the forces of the galaxy all came out of hyperspace together, and I got that right as well.
But that's just like a trope, really, isn't it?
Shut up, it's the best trope.
Okay.
I used to think about it when I was cycling to work. And I cycle a little bit faster. Tears in my eyes, dreaming of
Did you know
Normandy.
that I think a science researcher, consultant person on the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek film, the only thing that she contributed to that movie was to tell him where the Enterprise should hide in the solar system to avoid being detected by the Romulans, and like where it should come out of warp. So it was like the Saturn's rings thing was because of like that being the only like logical
That
hiding
bit is
place
real
in
cool.
Oh yeah, no, and it was like a perfect marrying of. I'm reading a book about lab coats in Hollywood, which is basically like about the science consultancy side of movies. But yeah, like that was
Bet
like
they're an angry lot.
that was the marrying of like the entertainment function with the actual sort of scientific reasoning side of things, which is pretty cool because it looks good.
Andy, you wrote us a long email that we probably won't have a lot to respond to, so it'll just be him. I recently went on holiday to the Chernobyl exclusion zone, and in the run-up, I was revising the history of the accident and the ramifications from the cleanup efforts. Among all this reading, I thought about replaying and finally finishing Stalker, but I decided to wait until I returned home and had some first-hand experience of the locations depicted in the game. I wanted that authentic, hey, I know that place experience when playing the game. Well, I got home some weeks ago, and after 2 days spent hearing the details of the event and getting a much deeper understanding of what people involved with the cleanup went through, many of them with no comprehension of the danger they were facing, I'm left with the feeling that the last thing I want to do is play the Stalker games. I know that they are set after a fictional second explosion, and that none of the people originally involved in the accident could possibly be depicted in the game, but even knowing that, having heard the horrific fate that met the first responders, and knowing that there is one engineer whose body has never been recovered from the wreckage, my feeling is that representing of people even remotely connected with that tragedy as mutants and jump scares is disingenuous, to say the least. But at the same time, I know a lot of fiction has been written in films, and films have been made about the accident and the zone, so why should game makers not be allowed to get in on it too? Plus, I don't have the same issues with playing World War II games, and I'm already looking forward to Battlefield 1, so I recognise that there's a healthy amount of hypocrisy/cognitive dissonance surrounding my newfound disdain of the Stalker games. But it's a feeling that I just can't shake. Perhaps it's because the games require me to kill these former power plant workers, rather than taking sides with them, as would be the case in most World War II games. I'm not sure. So finally the question, have you had a game that you similarly just can't bring yourself to play, or one that you began but were unable to complete for reasons of taste or conflicts with personal experience? Love your work. Pip is a great a great addition to the panel. Keep on keeping on.
Pip, a great experience.
Like my Yelp reviews or something.
That's Andy, who is Modulus in the Discord channel.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I haven't had that experience. I suspect that if I had been in World War II, I would not like World War II games that much. And It's probably the same for like if you just had some first-hand or second-hand contact with something that a game is depicting. The idea of making fun of it, in the sense that you turn it into something that is fun, is just a lot less tasteful and a lot less acceptable. Like most of the stuff that we kind of like get pleasure from simulations of in video games, we have to be a bit removed from it to
Stabbing in the neck, for example.
There was a This American Life episode about like how the relatives of murder victims feel about murder mysteries. Turns out don't like them that much. not actually big fans of that kind of stuff doesn't seem like a bit of fun, schlocky entertainment to them, which is understandable.
There was a thing that I said on RPS quite recently, because I think it was in relation to the introversion prototype games that they had at EGX. No, Res.
You talked about these in the podcast, Tom.
Was it?
No.
Yeah.
One of them was Wrong Wire, and it involves you disarming a bomb on the tube. And when I was talking to Chris DeLay,
I mentioned that.
he was talking about it, but I was like, I think I said in the piece that, like, and it's nothing to do with him, but it was like, it occurred to me when I was interviewing him that I was uncomfortable with that as subject matter, and it's because I remember 7/7, and I was living near London at the time, and I had friends who worked there and worked in those general areas, and I remember sort of the fear of that, and the fear that I still get when there's a security alert on the underground, like, as somebody who was a Londoner, it's like this thing that is sort of weirdly and literally close to home. But Chris and I were talking also about similar things the other day, because we were sort of talking about Battlefield 1, because games tend to stick with World War II.
We actually had this exact discussion on the last pod as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that was... Yeah, just sort of one of those things that's just been sort of, it pops up in my brain every now and again as a kind of, why am I comfy with this and
it's
not
like,
this?
I'm uncomfortable with, like a lot of depictions of modern warfare in the Middle East, because I've had involvement in a few ways with human rights efforts in the Middle East since I left uni. So like, there's a personal experience of people who've, enjoyed horrific things, and it's not to say that every other war in video games doesn't depict situations that were horrific for people. It's just when you have a little bit more context, it makes it harder to
also
treat those things as entertainment.
Anything in pop culture that sort of is weirdly fetishistic about Jack the Ripper, I'm not good with.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how it has played, but how the Assassin's Creed, the London set one, what's it? Syndicate. Like how that trailered its Jack the Ripper DLC was disgusting to me and repulsive, and like it put me off even finding out whether it had actually been handled in an interesting way, because the trailer was so many sort of leering close-ups and sort of like there's like
there's a big difference between, like, it's interesting how some things have, like, Jack the Ripper is an example of a kind of really horrible part of London's history that's been taken as almost fiction. Like, people forget that that's actually just a real serial killer who really killed a whole bunch of women.
It's like in the same bracket as Sherlock Holmes.
Or Dracula, which is the other thing it's often compared with. It's another sort of like, Victorian man preying on women, only one of them is a fictional character designed to explore ideas about repression, particularly sexual repression in Victorian society, and the other's a real guy who actually killed women. Yeah. And
and it's really like, because I went to an exhibition at the Wellcome Trust, and they had like, it was about crime scenes and things. So they had the what are they called? Like the nutshell, like miniatures, where they're like little crime scenes, almost like dolls' houses, and policemen like go and look at them, and then they construct, like, from the evidence in front, like what information they can get about a crime, which is so interesting. But they're like these tiny, like really detailed things. But in another bit, they had like the layout of the streets where one of Jack the Ripper's victims was found, but also like in one of the sort of supporting documents over to the side, they had like an actual sort of like, not autopsy sketch, but like an artist's sort of rendering of the body as it was, I think, and like it showed you exactly where she was like cut and like had internal organs like gout. It was truly horrible, and like these are things that happen to a real person, and then when you see a game kind of with the sort of leering bodicy approach in a trailer, like it just
Henna Schroeder writes, "Hello, Crate, Crow and Bar. I didn't cry when my grandfather died, even though I loved him, but I did cry several times while watching a Civilization 6 announcement trailer. What the hell is wrong with me? Have you ever been moved to tears or otherwise by a game trailer or video like this, while knowing that it's just a marketing tool? Keep casting those pods. Regards, Henry. No, but the Mirror's Edge 1 trailer has a really, deep effect on me. It's just Faith runs around a bit and then it ends with her on the edge of a skyscraper or something, and then the music doesn't really come in till the very end, and the music is this beautifully sparse thing. This was on my mind recently because the theme tune for Mirror's Edge 2 was announced recently, and it's Churches, who I love. I love Mirror's Edge 2, and I listened to the track. They released the track that is the theme tune with a significant amount of trepidation because I love both things, but I would not have put the two together. And sure enough, I like it as a Churches track, but I don't like it as a Mirror's Edge 2 theme tune. Okay. And it's mostly because that Mirror's Edge 1 theme tune used in that trailer, while seeing an art style I'd never seen before and just being kind of lost in the atmosphere of this completely unique new place, and also listening to music, I really think it suits it beautifully.
That is a great soundtrack.
Don't know, if I'd heard that song in isolation, I don't know if it would have particularly struck me as a great one, but those two things together, just I can watch that trailer forever and just find it really deeply beautiful in a way that no other game trailer is really. Loads of game trailers I find really exciting. Then once I've played the game, I don't really care that much. But that one still is really good.
I cry all the time about everything. I've cried over mobile phone adverts. I've cried over Coca-Cola adverts. I've cried because I thought about something happy happening. I've cried because I thought about a robot being lonely. There's a lot of things that I've cried about. But in terms of games,
Do you remember when I came home and entered the room too quietly, and that made you cry?
That was because I got scared because you came up behind me.
I was saying your name the entire time.
Yeah, but I didn't hear it until I heard it, and then I was surprised. Anyway, but the thing in terms of gaming that I always know will make me cry if I watch it is the This Is Eve trailer. Where they've got the all of the people, their voiceovers, and they've sent they've sent recordings of themselves in, and it's just this wonderful human thing. And the other thing that I get reliably emotional about is esports wins of teams that I think deserve it. It's really stupid, but I have watched StarCraft matches or whatever where I haven't really understood what's going on because I still don't really get StarCraft, which is awful and whatever. But I have still been so moved by the response of the person that wins that I will just burst into tears on their behalf. But a swelling soundtrack will get me. A particular chord progression will set me off.
Yeah, I've just remembered that the Civ 6 trailer, I had a very disconnected response to it in that I was Civ 6 was announced, by the way. And the trailer is just a series of sort of images of civilization in the lowercase c sense, sort of CGI stuff that it doesn't show anything of the game, basically. It's just here's what the word civilization kind of means to us. And so I was slightly disappointed by that. And then the soundtrack is fucking brilliant, but it's it's a song from the soundtrack to Sunshine, the movie.
Okay.
Something with the word adagio in it. And it's an incredible piece of music, and I actually only really discovered it. I'd seen Sunshine several years ago, but recently Adam Saltzman mentioned it on Twitter, and it's on Spotify, and I looked up and listened to it, and it's just a properly fucking mind-blowing piece of music. Even just, you don't need to look at anything, you don't need to be watching Sunshine, you don't need to be seeing anything, just listen to that music on its own, and it'll just
Isn't that
destroy your soul.
Soundtrack?
I don't think so. It's
which
John
one
someone. It wasn't someone I'd heard of before. Sunshine, Cillian Murphy, it's directed by Danny Boyle, I want to say. And they're flying towards the sun to on some kind of mission to stabilize it or destabilize it, and I think they're going to die.
Oh, okay.
I think it's one of those missions that you don't come back from.
Yeah. Heroic Sacrifice will make me cry as well. I
The
mean,
ships as
The
well.
music is just like, it's very spacey and it's very kind of just dramatic and exciting. And it's got a particular moment in it where it all just fucking kicks off and it's just gets you in the guts.
Yeah.
And if I'd never heard it before, I probably would have cried at the Civ 6 trailer. But because I had heard it before, I was just like, oh, it's a Sunshine track. Okay.
But the thing is, I don't think I don't think this is like a thing where somebody is saying I feel bad about this. It's more of a kind of, what the fuck thing. But like those things, like I don't feel bad about crying more over these collected things than when my own grandmother died, because she wasn't doing that to emotionally manipulate me. But these trailers and things deliberately are. They want to encourage and heighten and sort of
when I finally pass away, I'm gonna put on a soaring soundtrack in the corner of the room. Just ignore the.
See, this is
ignore
the
the string
because
section.
people can try and do this. They can do their own grief marketing through their funeral. That's why you need to put a lot of thought into
I've
the
never thought of it as grief
crescendos
marketing
and
before.
things.
But now I will.
You want people to respond. You want a response.
And don't ask for the Wii shop music to be played at your funeral, for example.
Oh god, or the
Keyboard cat for me. As I'm lowered into the furnace.
Have a real cat play as well.
I want the
Don't even like
the
cats.
music. The music when you go see Professor Oak in Pokemon Snap when you've got a new photo to show him. But anyway, because my grandma wasn't doing it on purpose. She just had a stroke and died.
I would have thought those things that do sort of pull at your heartstrings effectively, to some extent, in the moment, you have to not think they're doing it on purpose. Or when something emotionally affects me, if I can tell I'm being manipulated, I feel like that takes away from it and I'm not so manipulated.
No, that has never worked for me.
Right.
I think, but then again, I think it's because and the reason that I love art and art galleries so much is because I have such a strong response that completely bypasses certain parts of my conscious brain. I think I just will respond viscerally to particular colors or particular noise or all of that kind of stuff.
I think it's music for me. I think that's the thing one common thing I've spotted in everything that affected me emotionally is the music is really doing its job. It's really accentuating whatever I'm already feeling or sort of bringing something out.
Yeah, definitely music for me.
Music can very much do it, and particular I wasn't kidding when I said chord progressions, because there's particular kinds of repeated motifs in music across different songs that will always get me, and it's it's weird when the song is just something really stupid. Avril Lavigne's "I'm With You" will always make me cry, and it's because there's a certain moment when a particular progression in the song happens, and I'm that's reliably the bit that
Key changes are the spaceships leaving hyperspace.
But yeah,
I don't know if I want to understand that stuff. I definitely don't understand that stuff. And there's certain story things and kind of scripting things, so with TV and movies. I don't write those things, but I've read a huge amount about how you structure those for effect, and I do understand them now. And I spot tropes much more easily than I used to. And maybe it's taken a little bit away from it. And maybe I don't want to understand everything about how people manipulate my feelings. Sean McKenna writes, "Dear Great Apes and Bonobos, many times in the podcast, you, and particularly Tom F., have discussed trying to break games by testing the consistency of a system's internal logic. I've been playing the new episodic Hitman game, and while it's all too easy to poke holes in the AI behaviour, I'm still having lots of fun taking on the various challenges in those works. So I ask you, what are your most memorable examples of when a game surprised you with its robust internal consistency? Furthermore, does holistic system design achieve anything more significant than greater immersion in a world? Thanks for all the excellent podding, bananas and tyre swings all round." I did have an example of this recently, and it was with that very game, the episodic Hitman thing, where I was this is a story where in one way the game fails to live up the consistency that I wanted from it, and in another way it exceeds the consistency I expected from it. So I was exploring Sapienza, which is the second episode, in Italy, and there's a mansion with both your targets in it, and then there's just a village outside of it. And I'd already done the mission, and I'd done loads of it, and I'd explored loads of different ways in, and I was looking at the challenges and things I hadn't achieved yet, and the thing that kept coming up in lots of them was the morgue, and I'd never even found a morgue, so I'm just like, where is the morgue? And I ran around the city for ages trying to look for the morgue, and I never found one. And eventually I was just thinking, like, what's the best way to find the morgue? I thought, well, I know in this game when you kill someone, guards come and like drag the body away. They put it in a body bag and they drag it somewhere. It's like, well, if there's a morgue on this level, they should drag it to the morgue. So I could just kill somebody and then just watch where they drag it to. But just out in the streets, it's quite tricky to find anyone who's isolated enough that you can kill them without everyone just shooting you. If everyone shoots you, then no one's going to come and drag the body away and you won't get to watch it. So I explored for a while until I found like one guy sitting on a bench and no one else around. And I kind of hid in the most secluded spot I could find, and I headshotted him with my silence pistol, and he died. And nothing happened because I'd found the one guy who's really isolated. Like, I'd specifically picked someone nobody could see, so I shot him, and then there's a corpse, but now nobody's seeing the corpse, so nothing's happening. Oh shit! I guess I gotta wait for somebody to walk past, and I waited for ages, and nothing happened at all. And I just thought, oh god, I've done this too well. I've done the perfect crime. No one's ever gonna find out that I killed this guy. And
could you not pick him up and move him?
Maybe, but if everyone sees you do that, then they will go crazy. So if you dragged it into someone's line of sight, they would see you do it. And if you didn't drag it in someone's line of sight, then they wouldn't see it. And
could you drag it to like an empty bit, but where you knew that people like...
Yeah, so I kind of thought this is... The place that I killed him is like right by the main church tower, so I figured someone will come by eventually. And eventually someone did, but it wasn't a guard, it was a civilian. And that's okay, because civilians will run and tell a guard. I've seen that before. They'll see a corpse and they'll run and say, oh my god, someone's been killed.
Yeah.
And she did that. But the guard she ran to was me. Because I was wearing a bodyguard's uniform. And I hadn't thought about that at all. I was wearing a bodyguard's uniform because I needed one for something else. And so she runs up to me and says, oh my god, there's a body, someone's been killed. I'm like, yeah. And you can't do anything. There's no sort of response prompt or anything. I'm just like staring at her. I'm wearing my bodyguard disguise. I'm very bald and have a barcode in the back of my head. And I'm just staring at her next to the guy I just killed, saying nothing. And so she just stares at me. And then eventually she says, why aren't you doing it to help? Well, because I don't know where to take the fucking body. Like, the reason I killed him is I want to know where the morgue is. I don't know where the morgue is. I don't know where to take this body. I can't help you. And so it was the thing that I didn't expect from the consistency of the game was that the fact that I looked like a guard meant that a civilian would report a body to me, even though I was the person who fucking killed him and I'm the player, and like, the game knows I'm not the right person to report the body to. But they had the civilian do what the civilian behave based on what the civilian knew. The thing that I was expecting consistency where it actually didn't come up is that there is a morgue on that level, but people don't necessarily take bodies to the morgue. There's just security rooms, and I don't think the morgue is even one of the places they can take a body to. It's just, it's like they take them to security rooms, and then like, you know, days later maybe the story is that they take them to morgues wherever they would be, because the morgue is like, this is actually realistic.
That's a long time. The body starts to do things before then.
I'm not saying that actually happens. I'm just like, within the scope of the mission, they never drag anyone to the morgue, because the morgue is like a preset place where there's only two places for bodies, and there's already a body in one of them, and the other one's a place you can hide. And so that is not actually systemic, but it was cool.
I have a question, which is, are there any supermarkets in Sapienza or in Paris?
No, there are lots of there are cafes and bakeries and...
Could you see if there's anywhere where you can scan the back of his head on a till?
In the self-service checkout.
Yeah.
Unexpected item in the bagging area.
And you have to sit in the bagging area, or else someone will know.
I think we speculated before as to what comes up if you scan Agent 47 into barcode battlers.
Maybe 47 is the pounds he costs.
Oh, it's a bunch of turnips.
Wow, you look just like you should belong in this bagging area, says the self-service checkout.
Oh, produce. Gonna produce some things up later.
Here's a big bag of carrots. Who's a big bag of carrots? You are, according to the barcode in the back of your head.
God, when I was playing the elusive target mission, I was dressed as a waiter, and someone said one of their waiter lines to me, and one of their waiter lines is like, it's like something like, oh, you look like a, oh, no, they say, oh, waiter's gonna, well, wait, I guess.
I wish that they had gone with my dad jokes idea, because then somebody could, like, come up to you and do, like, really exaggerated eyebrows and just be like, I'll have what he's having. Like, you know.
Actually, no, sorry, I just remembered that that's not quite right. It's, waiters will be, well, you know, waiters. That's a thing they say spontaneously.
Waiter's gonna wait would at least be a line.
Anyone who looks
Yeah.
like a waiter. Still.
Yeah, that's actually, that works. Waiter's gonna wait.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it would work also because if you are dressed as a waiter, you probably are going to be waiting around a lot for your target.
Yeah.
Philip Hoggins writes, Dear Pip and Pipettes, while I love what VR can bring to gaming in general, I do worry slightly that if VR and the Vive in particular become a large part of games, that it may limit the amount of games I can actually play. I have a mobility issue, which means I'm unable to stand/walk for long periods of time, and with the Vive having several demos where people walk around a space in real life, the movement being transferred to VR. While I would hope that there would be alternative control systems implemented so that physical movement is not needed, I am slightly hesitant that if developers go down this path, this particular segment of VR games will be unavailable to me. I understand that developers can't cater to every disability or need, but on a selfish note, it would annoy me if my disability held me back in the virtual world when I can use games to escape from the real world. Thoughts? P.S. Love the show and the addition of Pip. Cheers, Philip. Also called Pip.
Ah, good name.
It strikes me that, well, one thing worth stressing is when you're setting up the Vive, it asks you, do you want the walking around in a space version or the sat down at a desk version, which I think modifies some of the software, and obviously not all of the software is going to work either way. I feel like actually the Vive has quite an elegant solution for moving around a space without actually moving physically with the teleportation system on the paddle, which can be used for like relatively small movements as well as big ones. And obviously you miss out on some of the specific immersion of walking around physically, but you also do away with some of the potential immersion breaking things of walking around physically, like seeing the chaperone grid come up and realizing that you're in danger of bumping into your real cupboard or something like that.
I had, you were in the room actually when I was playing the solar system bit of the lab demo. And eventually, because I didn't want to keep seeing the chaperone, I just sat down in the middle of the room and like started just like using the paddle to like move me, but I was like sat cross-legged on the floor, like interacting with the planets and like reaching out for them and stuff. But I found it like a lot more pleasant to actually just be sat on the floor. So that, and the game or the demo rather, like didn't seem to object to that. If you see what I mean, like it wasn't that it suddenly became unplayable or weird. Like it was, you know, it was a similar experience. I mean, I lost Mars at one point, but that was more because I can remember where I'd put it. But
that's the backstory of Doom, actually.
But yeah, so that was like I think there are a few where the demo or whatever has particularly played with the movement aspect, or like so the secret shop demo for Dota kind of like benefits from you wanting to sort of crouch down and look at things, or like sort of crane up and peer at things, but you know it's not game breaking or anything. I think it's more that some games do exploit it a bit differently.
I think and there'll certainly be VR games that aren't suitable if you're not able to move around freely. But by the same token, I don't think that'll be a hard and fast rule. And I think, you know, a bit like there's a portion of traditional games that also have a problem with that. Things like, you know, well, obviously, like, you know, Wii or Kinect things would be a good example of that sort of thing. I think there will be a dimension of VR games that are also in that category, but I think there will be a lot of them that are seated experiences. Yeah. So if the concern is simply, am I going to miss out on the next generation? I'd say no. There might be a bigger proportion of the next generation of games that are a problem, but I still think there'll be loads of, like, actually, to be honest, all of the VR games that I'm most excited about, all of them are seated experiences, like Valkyrie and Elite.
I think also
interesting. The issue is going to be that, definitely there's going to be some stuff that that Philip will not be able to play I think budget cuts really depends on you being able to move around the space of your own accord and, duck and things. And it would lose a lot if you were just seated. Hollow Point, which I talked about in the last podcast, is sort of actively athletic. You have to be standing up in a room and be able to turn around on a dime immediately. And it's just it's super designed for that. I think the thing I hadn't thought about until this email is that the difference between the kinds of games that he will be able to play and that he won't be able to play is not a difference between like room scale and not room scale. Like there are loads of room scale things that you can play, like the universe simulation. I think Tilt Brush would be fine.
Yeah.
And Steam will tell you whether something's room scale or not, but it won't say anything beyond that. So it makes me wonder if we need some other classification for like this is an active game or this is like a you have to be able to move around your space to play this game.
One of the things I'm curious about is whether the people's levels of comfort with standing up for any period of time anyway will dictate how long a particular game is. Because I think, did Philip say that like it was more about standing for long periods of time or walking for long periods of time? So it might be that if it turns out that with VR and with people's various tolerances for being in VR, that the games end up skewing towards short periods of time, it might be that that problem in his particular situation is negated by other aspects of the technology, like people maybe sort of skew towards 10-minute games. And
luckily with Hollow Point, you're going to kick the cable out of your PC within about 30 seconds. Problem solved.
Or trip over your cat or something.
Hollow Point is basically the best game ever that just doesn't work with the current technology. It's really good, but it does just fight against every limitation you have. We actually have a really related question from Twitter from, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Jorg Billet. I listened to your talks about VR and how great it is. Would VR be great if you are one eye blind? I can actually vouch for this because my dad only has a sight in one eye, and I was very excited to get both my parents to try VR recently. And then I thought, oh shit, my dad only has one eye. Will it even work? And so I tried all of the things that I like in VR with one of my eyes shut to see if it does work. And yeah, completely. Yeah. There's almost no difference.
Longbow was doing proof this to me because I kept closing one eye to aim.
Right.
Because I closed one eye for depth perception. Does everyone do that?
No, I don't.
Probably not for depth perception, but for aiming.
I'll squint,
like you want to
usually,
eliminate one of the two images you get when something's really close to your eyes.
Yeah, but it was weird. I found myself naturally doing that in Longbow, and it didn't break the VR.
Yeah, actually, one of the other games I've played in VR is Space Pirate Trainer, which is you just stand on a platform, you select guns for each of your hands, and you shoot drones that fly up. So it's just like straight up shooting game. But it's a really interesting demonstration of how that works in VR. And I was wrong in this, but for a while I thought the best combination was like a shield in one hand, and then the other hand this kind of charge up pistol that it's a lot like a pistol in Doom actually, where you charge it up and it hits instantly, and it has a laser sight on it. And the weird thing about that in VR is you have to hold it really close to your eye, and the best way to do that was actually to hold it gangster style sideways, so that the reticule was over your eye. And yeah, you had to shut one eye for it to work at all, because you're only seeing it with one of your eyes, so the other eye is just kind of noise. And it's a very interesting targeting system because it's sort of like a digital reticule where it has two different crosshairs, and one stays fixed relative to the gun, and the other one is kind of where it's pointing in the world. And so if you are not close to where you think you're pointing, you can't see the other reticule at all. So you have to have a pretty good idea of where you're aiming. But yeah, I just spent the whole time with one eye shut and the reticule, my hand right next to the visor, aiming through one gun gangster style whilst holding a shield up against the rest of my body. And then it turns out that game is way, way better if you play with two laser-sighted pistols. Then you don't need to dodge because you're killing everything. Or you don't need to shield because you're killing everything and dodging.
I think I mostly only use one eye when I'm trying to read text in VR because I still can't do it very well. It always looks fuzzy.
Yeah, it's...
Always.
Yeah. I find, if you're looking dead ahead relative to the visor, it's all right for me. But if I look like even 10 degrees down
Yeah.
at text, it's blurry.
Like, if people do that thing where, like, on a normal computer screen, you would have it at the bottom of the
Yeah.
screen, I'm like, I
do that in
cannot
VR.
read your text. Can someone from the outside world read this off the screen, please?
Henry Stenhouse writes, best hair game in video games.
Bonsai Barber.
Fair
It's
enough.
on the Wii, but it's just the best hair game I've ever played.
I don't know why, but his phrasing makes me think he means the best hair in video games, basically.
As in, yeah, good
when you say
game.
your hair game is on point.
By the way, on fleek. By the way, the
Don't be on
Bonsai
point.
Barber is by why is his name suddenly not in my head? Goldeneye. Martin.
James Bond.
No.
Pierce Brosnan.
No! The guy who made the GoldenEye game for the N64.
Sean Bean.
No! Why am I blanking
Robbie
out
Coltrane.
on this? No! You're messing with
Famke
me.
Janssen.
It's so annoying. The guy who made the game.
Martin Hollis.
Yes. Thank you.
That's all right.
He also made Bonsai Barber.
Was the hair a lot bigger than you expected?
The hair was amazing because it's different plants growing like leaves out of their head. And
Were they like annoyingly big relative to what you expected from the word bonsai?
Make that joke, Tom.
Oh, sorry.
But you have to cut it within like this template. But if you cut it wrong and cut too much off, you get to spray them with water, and the hair grows grows back, and like you can kind of curate them a bit better. And there are birds that sort of fly around, and you can spray the birds with water. And yeah, it's just so good. It's the best game.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fabulous hair in Dragon Age Inquisition, thinking about it.
Now I'm just thinking about Bonsai Barber and everything
Yeah, no,
else.
you're
It's just
Oscars.
not measuring up. I don't know. Like, wasn't there a whole load of fuss about Tress FX for Lara Croft?
Lara's wafty hair.
The thing is, they're always like fighting to get towards just like normal hair, like just
Yeah.
a normal person's hair behaving in any normal way at all.
Question.
It's a holy grail for technology.
Has anybody in a video game that you are aware of accurately modelled armpit hair or leg hair or pubic hair? Because it feels like there is a certain amount of like body policing going on with regard to
I
like...
can definitely think of games where, like, if you take all the... Like, Dark Souls...
I don't remember ever seeing a lady with hairy pits in a game.
No, I can't think of one either. Dark Souls has, like, a setting that allows you to give your character, like, your male character, like, a hairy back
Yeah.
and stuff, which is...
Like, how hairy are we talking? Are we talking Mohican? Like, down the back, like
No.
spines, like a Dimetrodon. Like-
What's the opposite of the point I was trying to make?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I mean, like, just a hairy man. Like, quite a hairy man.
Yeah, but not like a homunculus.
I think there are.
No.
I think lots of games have like an armpit hair texture for someone, for like men's underarm. I can't think of any that model individual hairs.
Yeah.
Tell you what would be a good one to check out if Drake ever gets naked in Uncharted 4. I would bet they model that stuff, because someone
Do
pointed
you
out
think
recently.
he'll have the line
say that
from the
stuff,
tummy
what do you
button
mean?
to the groin
Pubic
that men
hairs.
seem to have, like the seam?
I would fully expect that. But I would expect individual hairs to be modelled. Someone pointed out recently that if you angle Drake such that light is directly behind his head, the cartilage of his ears is translucent. So they have modelled the translucency of the actual matter that his flesh is made of.
Do
So
you
they've gone
think
to an
if he had,
extraordinary
like-
level of detail.
Maybe if he had like a mole that had like a single hair growing out of it, maybe like.
I think they would edit that shit out.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know. In conclusion, what's the best hair that you've ever seen in a game, Tom?
Well, so Drake's hair is pretty good, but I heard someone say on Twitter recently that he uses product, and they said it in a very decisive way, as if the game actually tells you this.
Right.
And that wouldn't surprise me, because you do start, like, that you spend some time in his house, in his, like, normal life.
Yeah.
So maybe there is actually a shot of the product he uses.
But does that mean that his hair is better or worse? I'm not sure what this changes.
To me, it doesn't
for
affect
you.
the actual end result, but
Yeah.
the point that, I can't remember who said it now, but somebody was saying that this was very unadventurer-like. If you're an adventurer, you're not allowed to actually take care of your appearance. You just have to look naturally roguish.
But surely, like, you might want your hair to stay put. Like, you wouldn't want it flying off in all directions. You'd want it to...
It's short enough that I don't think it's a practical problem.
Fair enough. Maybe it would come in useful for something. Like, you could just run a hand through your hair and then grease something up. Like, I don't really know how men's hair product
Could just
works.
put engine grease in your hair.
It's a source. It's just grease that we can use throughout the day.
Yeah, like maybe you could like rub it over a pan and use it to fry a sausage.
On your adventuring.
In Stephen's sausage roll.
Yeah.
Oh man, I heard a spoiler about Stephen's sausage roll. And
Really?
I won't repeat it, but people keep talking about how each chapter, evolves.
Yeah.
What the mechanics are, even though they don't change the mechanics. It
Yeah,
just presents you
yeah.
new situations. And yeah, it changes more than I thought it would change.
Oh. God.
I'm torn
The
between.
sausage will remember that.
So I listened to Video Games Hot Dog, which is
the best thing that would have
is-
reviewed that then.
yeah, actually the perfect podcast. I didn't even think about that. And it is in
They
many
just
ways
need
the
to
perfect
review a bum
podcast.
game now.
It is in many ways the perfect podcast to review it, because it features Kevin Simmons, who is the person, the best puzzle game player I know. I know
Yeah.
loads of like puzzle game devs who are also brilliant at puzzles. But he's a proper genius, and he's been playing Stephen's Sausage Roll and telling, revealing things that sound really exciting about it, like about how it gets so satisfying once you get to chapter 5, and
Yeah.
this thing is so amazing about it.
I
But
will
at the
never
same
get to
time,
chapter 5.
I'm bearing in mind that he's been talking about it for like 3 episodes of this podcast, and he's playing it for like a month, and he's just finished it. And he's like
Yeah.
10 times smarter than me, so it's going to be like 50 months for me to fix it.
I'm just like, I was so into it, and then I needed to review Battleborn, and then I went to the League of Legends thing, so it's kind of like the universe is actively conspiring against me at this point, because it's just like, no sausage rolls for you.
Yeah, there's just been a
We're
million.
cutting you off.
There's been a million really good games as well that like are much more superficially appealing than pushing sausages around with a fork.
Well, I think the other thing is I got massively like into Subnautica. Like, it has grabbed me in a way that few other things have in recent years, and I think partly it's like a thing because it actively sort of soothes my brain, and I have like, just chronic anxiety and depression, but it's just this wonderful place where I can kind of hide and explore and like properly just like bliss out on like wandering around with fish and things, and that kind of completely sucked every hour of time that I wasn't devoting to the work-related gaming, because I suddenly just latched onto it and was just like, that's what I do now. I live under the sea and I stream The Good Wife. Like, both of those things, because I reached the end of everything that they had on Netflix for The Good Wife, and it has sort of, I felt like it sort of tailed off a bit towards the end of what they've got. Like, the last season I'm not in love with, so I went back to the beginning and it was like, it's good again.
I should actually start again, because I think I would have forgotten most of it. I haven't seen the last episode that they have on Netflix, because I thought the one before it was the last one.
Yeah.
And I was totally happy with it as the ending of the series. And I'm like, oh god, there's another one. And it started like stress me out. Like, but they might ruin the ending that I like. So I'm just not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it until there's a whole other season for me to watch
Yeah,
afterwards.
that seems reasonable.
too
But
good.
yeah.
Scoo writes, will Chris be getting his Dota 2 compendium to level 1000 this year for another tiny Aegis?
They have released the new Dota compendium.
You're actually looking over at your tiny Aegis right now.
Oh, that's a tiny Aegis.
Yeah,
It's hanging on the wall in this very room.
it is.
Is it pronounced Aegis?
Aegis, I think.
Aegis.
But yeah, they usually go with Aegis.
But yeah, so just means shield, really. But yeah, so they've announced a new thing. They have not, however, included a tiny, adorable dinosaur courier as a secret reward that Pip wants. So therefore, the chance of me spending £200 trying to get one is vanishingly small. However, they have made the entire offering kind of more exciting, which is good, partly because there's loads more ways, like mini games and quests and stuff you can do to try and level up your compendium without spending money. But also, I have a very short amount of self-control when it comes to spending money on things I sort of half want.
So how much have you spent already? Given it's been out for less than 24 hours at this point, go on. How much money have you spent?
£18 on getting the level 50 version.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spent another £18 getting the level 50 version for you. As a
That
present.
was really, really nice, and I was really excited.
And that's all I spent.
Yeah. But you see why it's on over 4 million already with the prize pool. I mean,
yeah.
1.6.
Shit, really?
1.6
Yeah, it went
of
from
that is
1.6 million to, as of when we were recording this podcast, I checked, 4.2 million in 24 hours.
Yeah, just under 24 hours.
So yeah, so a growth of $2.6 million in 24 hours.
I might regret asking this, but what is it?
So yeah, and also bear in mind, it's like there's been a compendium for a while with Dota, which is like the sort of esports sort of reference book / betting book where you sort of.
The first one was really cute because it was also kind of like a Panini sticker album. So you would collect like these cards as like drops,
player
and
cards,
like, yeah.
and stuff.
And so you'd sort of swap them with other people to actually like fill in your player booklets. But there were also elements like you would predict the outcome of particular matches, or you know like you'd do particular things, and so you could sort of gradually like fill in your book in some way. And people would like spend money on that, and that was the first one. And then they've sort of expanded it since, and stretch goals and things like that. But then this year, Chris can explain.
Sorry, yeah, they've really just to sort of like I was so conscious of skipping to the end on this one, but like so essentially they've now changed it substantially so that it's no longer really just an esports betting guide, nor is it just a sort of prize pool Kickstarter that gives you in-game tat, which is. I mean, as someone who has literally a metal disc on my wall now because of that investment, it's now something also called the Battle Pass, which comes with loads of associated items like new terrain for the map, like a new skin for the map, new weather and all this sort of stuff, and particle effects and everything else, music and announcer packs and all this surrounding stuff. But like quest lines tailored around different play styles, which are like objectives that you have to complete in a game and then win that game. So it's not stuff that you could like sabotage a game to get, but it's like try and get this item within this time limit or something like that. And those link to unique sets, but are also tied to like community objectives. There are mini games you can wager on matches.
There's tournaments.
Yeah, like weekend tournaments that are run within the Battle Pass, automated. Like there's loads of stuff in this one, like a soft matchmaking rating reset, which is a big deal for Dota. So it started off as a way of generating money for the international. It definitely still is that, but it's now more like a big sort of seasonal event mini game.
But
thing.
It's interesting because the blog entry that they wrote and the Battle Pass page itself, it's kind of like the Battle Pass is like this huge thing that is like really like mini games and challenges and stuff designed to sort of, I guess, augment your Dota experience, but also, give you wizard booty. But they sort of talked about it as if and the compendium was kind of like added in, like, so you get the benefits of the compendium, but like I think that they maybe have stopped thinking of the whole thing as the compendium. It's like the compendium is the bit that relates to the international.
It's because
specifically.
it's two compendiums,
and then
it's Manila as well. So
yeah, but like what I'm saying is like the Battle Pass section, like conceptually, it seems to be that there is an actual split in how Valve are thinking of those two things. It's just that this one happens to also enfold the compendium for the international which is the thing that people have been asking for. But it also, as you say, does involve the compendium for Manila and an entire whole other event that mirrors, or at least echoes rather, one that they trialed for winter that had like snow terrain and particular paths that you follow for things. So they've just basically expanded the whole thing.
Is that like VR observation mode?
Not in the game yet.
Okay.
No, I'm very sad about
They've teased it, but it's not in the game yet. And for every you buy this thing as a one-off, and then it has levels which you can either pay for or just get through playing all these mini games and stuff. And that's the thing they've improved. So there's now more and more exciting ways to level it up without having to pay, which was the thing coming last year.
I feel like out of it.
Valve are doing with this stuff like game design without a game. Like there's a game there, but they're not changing the game. They're changing this other thing that just plugs into it.
It's funny because I feel the same way, because I feel like I've been reviewing this aspect of their game design on and off for the last couple of years. Like I was very critical of the compendium system in some ways. I've always liked it, but there's always been problems with it. I think they've nailed it now. The other thing to understand is for every 25% of what's spent on these compendiums goes towards the prize pool for international, starting at 1.6 million. And that's why that number's impressive. So overnight, it's gone up by $2.6 million. But that means that about $10.4 million has actually been spent already. And that Valve have taken 3/4 of that, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of this as a selection of mini games that's attached to a free-to-play game, it's crazy.
Anytime Valve decline to spend money on something, I'm always astonished. Where it's like, well, just stuff like, the international sort of, they didn't always fly journalists out there.
They don't anymore.
Right. So
they did it 1 year.
Why not just play all out for
But they don't need to, because we're already writing about it, do they?
Yeah, but it's just nice.
They experimented with it, but for whatever reason, they decided that it wasn't worth it and they just stopped. Like, they still issue press passes and things. It's just make your own way there.
But I'm a lot happier with it this year, because if they'd done the same thing as they did last year, I think I just wouldn't have bought it, because that system was just so kind of dead to me. I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't like the element that pushed you to spend money to inflate your levels. You can still do that, but it feels more like the bigger part of the rewarding experience comes from you actually playing or experimenting with the stuff that they've included, or trying to sort of change your versions of it by upgrading a particular amount. And sure, that can be linked to money, because you can buy extra levels if you really want to just bypass the system. If you get to level 2,500, you get the ability to turn the river in the middle of the map into a river of blood.
What?
So, yeah, I know, right? But and so if you were really bothered about that, but didn't have the time, you could just throw money at the whole thing to make it happen. And so, that's kind of interesting to me, but, I can see myself actually enjoying the gamey aspects of it, trying to work my way along one of these paths to get an outfit for one of the characters I genuinely like. So,
it's funny, because I know game developers who just totally shun free-to-play stuff and sort of hate the idea of...
Just figured out, sorry, it would cost you about £1,000 to get to that level.
Jesus Christ.
£800 maybe.
Someone already has, obviously.
Yeah, it's about £800, I think.
So I know game developers who shun free-to-play stuff, and I know game developers who are free-to-play developers and who sort of, are proud of it, and they really think it's a great way to do things, and are both interested in the sort of cold metrics of what makes people spend money, and also in the sort of what is it right to charge money for. But none of them do what Valve do, which is Valve, it almost feels like there's two game developers. There's the people who just make Dota work the way it works, operate almost independently from the people who decide how do we make money out of the compendium thing and how do we make money out of the tournament thing. And that's just, it feels like it's kind of, it interacts with that game, but they don't compromise the main game to do that. And yet, the way they approach the compendium stuff and gamifying ways to sort of encourage you to spend money, they sort of push it towards the spending money thing, and then, you know, step back when it goes too far, and, you know, respond to player feedback and everything. But it's like that side of things for me as a game designer, like that is totally alien to me. I don't understand the how they do that. I'm also not the customer for it, so I don't understand why people buy it. And the side of the game where they just make Dota as good as it can be and they don't let money pollute it in any way makes perfect sense to me. And it's so weird that they're just like both sides of that developer split at the same time.
And it's one small team
and it
as
seems
well.
to work.
And it's one small team that does both.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever seen the Secret Shop stuff, Tom?
In VR.
No, as in their merchandise stall on the site at the International is called the Secret Shop, and so they have things like the luck box, the blind box thing that you can get, where it's like a little cardboard box, and inside is a plushy figurine thing of one of the characters, but you get people like buying an absolute ton of them to get them all because it's a blind pick, so you don't know what's inside. And like I had a Jakira and this guy really wanted it, like, and I was just like, no, it's the only one that I actually wanted, and I'm so happy that I got it. But like, you know, and he was kind of going around with all of these like plushies kind of dangling off his lanyard for the event, and just sort of like offering to swap with people. And with some of the figurines, like some of them would be a gold version.
you can see them up
of it.
there.
Yeah, like you got one of the gold ones last
So actually,
year.
yeah. So
Is that a bounty hunter?
So yeah,
with a
so
gold bandana.
So like yeah, so I
Yeah.
have. So you know, last year my birthday I was at the International, and somebody.
Yeah, talking like it works both ways with throwing digital stuff at each other.
Yeah. Somebody got me all.
Valve
all
are laughing at your whole relationship.
all, pricks. All five of the new figurines, and two of them. So when you open one of these figurines, and they're kind of cool little vinyl.
They're a nice
figures.
box actually. as
Yeah,
well.
and a
Like,
lovely
it's
box, which is why I've kept all
nice
the boxes.
packaging.
So there is a small chance. So each figurine, it comes with like a code that gets you an in-game item from like a random set. So one item out of several. And then there's a chance that the figurine itself will have like gold elements. So that's sort of a rare thing in that sense. If you have that one, then the in-game item will also be gold. You have a gold variant of the same set of items. And so I got two of them that were gold, which was really, really lucky. And therefore I got two of the golden cosmetics. And I checked today, actually, just because I was curious, because there's a few websites that allow you to check the value of your Steam items. And together, those two cosmetics are worth £240. One of them's worth 140, one of them's worth 100.
Holy shit.
Like, it's
Yeah.
fucking nuts. But, like, that's, you know, the apparatus that they built around the game now, which is kind of crazy.
But yeah, and also if you spent a certain amount of money, I think it was for every $50 or $25 that you spent, they would give you like a pin set, like a little set of like, you know, 3 heads of characters on pins that were kind of mirroring the emojis in the game. And so like, but they would also have like a little sticker, and you would have a sheet, and if you collected all of the stickers, then you could trade it for like some exclusive like extra pins.
God.
Like seriously, like this is what I'm saying in
So many
terms
systems.
of like, it was a special Crystal Maiden emoji that you got as
Yeah.
a result, and like her like blushing,
But, like, and this, the thing about this stuff...
it's so kind of gamified, like the whole elements of sorry.
But well, what I was going to say is this is from Valve developers. Like, this is them doing game design on a shop rather than a game. Like, it's interesting. They have continued to make games. It's just been not necessarily the ones that people were waiting for them to make.
It's like a little spin the wheel game for Crystal Maiden, or a little pachinko thing for Lena, or like opening boxes until you get a thing. They did it like Kinder Eggs the first year that they did it, didn't they? Like they would have like those big plastic eggs that had like 2 halves of a thing, and then you'd open it up and there would be a little plushie inside, and you'd see these people who had just bought so many of them. Or no, it was when you'd spent a certain amount at the shop, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
you got the thing, and so you just see them with like piles and piles of these things, just like opening egg after egg and like attaching them to their lanyards, and basically having like a beard of like stuffed wizards and animals. And you just like, okay,
Stuffed wizards.
I've still got like an enigma from that year, I think. But yeah. So Sorry, that was...
This seems to tie in closely to our final question from Max Ursa, Gareth Academy, who writes, I quite like the merch that isn't just blatant ad, like the XCOM tee with the XCOM emblem on the left breast, or the Elite cap. That said, I do like my Fallout bobbleheads. What's your favourite piece of gaming merch and why? Mine is my Plants vs. Zombies gardening gloves and trowel. Because awesome. No one else has ever given me gardening gloves and trowel.
Wow. I've got some like little plushes from things which are really cool, and like just some t-shirts and things that are like comfy. I will say this, like, and I know this might sound really weird, but League of Legends women's t-shirts are actually the best fit I've ever had of a t-shirt. So I really want to track down the t-shirt company that they source from to actually get things that continue to fit, because like in so many like women's shops in the UK, they just like they say that they're for women of any size, and you're just like this does not go in and out in any of the right places. So yeah,
game t-shirt wise, my two favourites, and it just comes down 100% to how well it fits and not what it has on it, are Humble, which is great because I sell my game through them and I like those guys, and Ouya, who I've never had anything to do with, and I don't think they even exist anymore. No. But their t-shirt's really good. It fits really well.
Mine will always be my International 2015 commemorative shame disc.
Oh, I'll tell you something though, because I had this idea. Do you remember Werebears?
No.
So they were these little like teddy bears, and like they looked really cute and fluffy and stuff, but you could turn their head inside out and then it would have fangs on the other side. Like, so basically you would sort of, you know, fingerless mittens, and then you can have the little like hood that goes over the top.
Yeah.
It's kind of not quite the same, but it was almost the same action of like, you know, you'd sort of fold this thing back, and then suddenly there would be like fangs and like
crack
it was
their head off their shoulders.
Well, they are like teddy bear, like they are furry and fuzzy kind of fabric.
Do you remove the head entirely? Or?
No. So it's kind of like almost like it's got so I'm gonna try and it's like
it's not gonna help our listeners.
No, it won't help our listeners. I might sound more muffled now because I have just pulled the front of my jumper back over my head. And so, but it's that kind of action where you sort of like unfold it.
It's like a face transfer.
It's like a face transfer. But so they had them, and I think that the story behind it is really cute because it's I think a parent, I think a dad didn't want his son to be ashamed of wanting his teddy bear, so he wanted to make a kind of like macho version of it, you know? Like a kind of, you know, it's okay for a boy who's a bit older to actually still have a teddy because it has fangs. You can turn it inside out and it has fangs, so that's okay. But like, you know, you can also have it the nice way around, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cute. And but
I think I do remember these things existing, but I never really knew how they worked.
I think there might have been like a cartoon as well.
No, I do not wish for the haunted toy, thank you.
But anyway, so there's a character in League called Nar, and like he has his sort of theme, I guess, of his character is that he starts off like as this cute, like bouncy kind of almost like teddy-like creature, and then at a certain amount of like, I think it might be called rage, I really can't remember, but like he will like gnaw out and like hulk out and go into sort of mega gnaw mode and gets like different kind of abilities and stuff. But I figured if you had the same, you know, like the same action, you could like turn, because they've got like a little mini gnaw like teddy bear kind of plushie, so I figured that they could like add the extra step and do the thing where you like invert it and you end up with mega gnaw. What? This is a really good marketing idea. I think I might have ruined everything, haven't I? Just by like...
I mean, someone should take you up on that pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so.
This was Dragon's Den.
That's my pitch. So yeah, if anyone wants to experiment and make that and send me a picture of how that goes for you. Like, I'm just going to get mutilated teddy bears on Twitter now, aren't I? Oh, I didn't think this through. Can we edit this bit out? Like,
People
cut
just,
it off before the end?
People cutting the chest out their teddy bear and, like, pulling it up over the face. Like, I've done it! This is a werebear!
This is what you begged me to do.
No, don't hurt any bears. Like, no, let's call this off now. Is that... Do we end now?
That is all
Shall
the questions we
end?
have time for.
What's the outro to the podcast? But
It's...
we skipped a bit.
There. I'm a person who wants to send questions. The questions are great crowbar.
Oh, no, I can't remember any of that. Oh, wait, no. So, we are at Creighton Crowbar on Twitter, and we are questions at CreightonCrowbar.com on the email, and we don't have a Facebook page or a Snapchat, and there's a Discord channel which you can find via the website, which is CreightonCrowbar.com, and there's also a forum which is linked to from the front page of that website. Yes, is that all of the things? Have
Pretty much.
We've gone through all of that. What else do people have? Flickr? We don't have Flickr.
I don't know what we'd do with it if we did.
Do we have any other... Should we be on any other things?
Did you mention Twitter?
YouTube. Are we on YouTube? Is Creighton Crowbar at YouTube or something?
No.
YouTube.com/Creighton Crowbar.
But that's also linked to an extra
Really?
post.
Oh. There are show notes as well. Brilliant.
We are on Twitter.
You can find us individually on Twitter. Tom.
I'm at Pentadact, Pentadacd.
Chris.
CTHURSTEN. C. Thurston.
And I'm at Philippa War, which is PHILIPPAWARR. Yeah. Have I missed anything?
Nope.
Great.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.